There we go. I see. We're live on YouTube.
That's not possible.
Copy.
I just hit it.
I just said. I just see it.
It says meeting is now
on.
streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna paste it into Super Geeks. Hold on. Super Geeks.
Yeah, I see us on YouTube. We're good. There.
Hey, I got it.
The ironic part. Okay, and the ironic part is
let's just go instead of we can talk about the technical stuff later when we
we can
debrief.
And my camera is still down.
This is a
Someone
humorous
give me the
thing.
YouTube link.
I'm sharing to all these groups, so we should start.
Okay, so I don't need to hit record because it automatically archives to YouTube. So everybody, we had some technical glitches, but we are now doing it through YouTube, and it seems to be working. So yay! Hey, welcome everybody. So we have a good show tonight, I think. After all these glitches, so it's going to be all right. So Super Geeks Live with me today, as usual, is Carlos. How are you?
Ready for action.
Whew, you better be after all this. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. I do have a chart to share with everybody tonight, or just
you want to do that now?
Is it just a chart or is it a full-on deck?
It's a full-on deck. I spent a couple hours doing this, so I'm just going to share my screen real quick.
And then
let me know if you can see my screen here. Good to go?
Yeah, we can see you. Yep.
Okay, so this is what I call the Super Geeks censor chart. As you listen to the topics tonight, you will probably encounter various levels of censorship. Let's go ahead and get started. At the very bottom of the censorship, Super Geeks censor chart is, whoa, what's going on?
What? I see it. Keep going.
Obey us.
Carlos was supposed to be. I'm sorry, guys. I think we've been censored.
I see what he's doing.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be able to share anything. All right, my bad, guys. I'm just gonna hand it back here.
I see what's
going on.
Oh my God!
Did you see that subliminal message?
I mean,
there was a subliminal message.
Yes.
I'm still being censored.
It said obey, obey. We love NBA.
It did? Well, that's funny. I'm just sitting here watching the NBA.
You'll dream about it tonight.
Wow, wow.
I hate sports ball, but yet I'm compelled to watch basketball for some reason.
Yeah, so this has been a surreal night so far, but you know what? I work better under pressure. What were you gonna say, Justin?
Hey, I actually have Facebook working.
Wow.
It's too late now.
Are we doing multi-streaming, or what are you trying to do now?
It gets work for me. I'm not
live.
but
I think we should just get started.
Let's just get
People
started.
don't care about our technical problems.
Because technically they're going to see it either way. All right. So, so our first topic is Carlos. What's our first topic?
Doing an intro?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, right. Yes, Ross.
Son, how are you doing?
Well,
I'm
just
Ross,
waiting
I'm sorry.
waiting for us to get started.
We're all messed up. All right, hang on. This has been one of those nights, people.
Why don't we just get started, folks?
But yeah, let's just skip the intro for now, Russ.
Get started.
Yeah.
I have one job in this group.
I know. I know, but it's a little too late for that. We had difficulties. Son, how are you doing today?
I'm just waiting for the show to start. Get to it already. Damn.
All right.
Let's just
We already know how everybody else is doing. Okay, so Carlos, what's our first topic?
Our first topic, George, is the Breaking Bad, the El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, which dropped on Netflix today, which was long anticipated and so far very well reviewed. Who's seen it?
I have.
I've seen most of it because other news broke during the day, so I didn't get a chance to finish it, but I've seen a good chunk of it.
We'll let Sean, when Sean's going to be late, he wanted to really talk bad about this. So I'm wondering if we should.
Bad?
No. Breaking Bad.
Oh, he badly wanted to talk
wanted to talk about it.
Okay. Yes, Joe.
No, I wanted to talk bad about it. But so we'll talk about it anyways and let Sean chime in later. So, okay, so Carlos, you've seen some of it. Do you want to comment on it or do you want to wait?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that it is a very seamless continuation from Breaking Bad, the series. You could put it right next to each other and, you know, and you'd think that it was actually shot one right after the other for the most part. So they do a really great job of visually maintaining continuity, even though there's years in between the end of Breaking Bad and the beginning of this movie. Performances amazing as usual. Jesse Pinkman, I'm blanking on his name.
Aaron Paul.
Paul, thank you. Aaron Paul is fantastic. He, for those quick recap of what the story is about, it is what happened to Jesse Pinkman after he was rescued from the encampment where the neo-Nazis were keeping him and forcing him to make the blue crystal meth that was the best-selling crystal meth. And they kept him in a cage for a long time, and he basically was traumatized by this. And so it's him trying to escape before the cops find him, because he's the last one alive. And, you know, so they're looking to arrest him. And so he's trying to make his escape and running into all kinds of obstacles in trying to do that.
That's good. That's a good sort of recap.
Yeah. I can't spoil it any further because I haven't seen enough other than to say that he keeps running into obstacles as he's trying to escape the long arms of the law, which are trying to find him.
Okay. Joe, I know you were one of the enthusiastic people that wanted to see this, so why don't we let you go next as far as your thoughts on what you saw?
Yeah, I think like Carlos said, you know, it was seamless. You watch it, and it was, you know, I didn't rewatch Breaking Bad, so that, you know, the last time I saw it was first run, but it was neat watching it and then thinking, oh, I recognize that person, like I remember that person. But I think my biggest takeaway was it was so well done, and I couldn't help but think about the last 2 seasons of the X-Files, and I was starting to get angry because I'm like, see, like those last 2 seasons of X-Files could have been this good.
They could have been that good.
And I felt so that's what I walked away with. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about closer to the ending, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But yeah,
it just came out today. So let's not spoil. Let's try to keep it spoiler free. We can get into spoilers maybe next time, like Justin suggested to me earlier. That might be a good idea. So whatever you can say without spoiling it, I think. Yeah, no,
it was. I just kept thinking, man, X-Files could have been this good. So,
what would you give it out of 10?
I would give it a 9 for a continuation.
And Carlos, I wouldn't say that you could fairly grade it yet, right? Because you haven't seen it all.
Well, I haven't seen the end, so but I'm inclined to go towards the same direction as Joe, just based on what I've seen so far. One quick note, though, that another piece of news associated with this that also happened today was that actor Robert Forster, who appeared in Breaking Bad and in this movie, he plays the guy he runs a vacuum store, who's also runs a side gig where he creates new identities to help people on the run from the law, you know, have a new identity and a new job and a new place to live and all that sort of stuff. And he charges a lot of money for that, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Jesse Pinkman goes to him for help. And the actor who plays him, longtime character actor Robert Forster, died today. He's also well known for, he was nominated for an Oscar for Jackie Brown, Quentin Tarantino's movie. He'd been in more than 100 films. And he died of brain cancer today. He was 78 years old.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
So rest in peace, Robert Forster. He is an amazing actor, and his scenes, he only has a few scenes in El Camino, but they're really, really good. You know, the casting on all the Breaking Bads and its sequels have always been spot on, and he's just one example of that.
Yeah. Joe, you said you had a couple things you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, just 2 more quick things. I took a screenshot while I was watching last night. So at the beginning of the movie, I noticed the Enterprise B in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think, can you pull that up, Justin? Yeah, that's it.
And then the next scene, you see the Klingon bird of prey, or the TNG Klingon. But then look at their chairs. Their captain's chairs.
Their chairs are captain's chairs. Yeah.
That's actually the Vorcha class up there. But yeah. We're such nerds.
Right down to the buttons on the chair.
Right. Yep. Isn't that so cool?
Yep. I like that.
Yeah, that's Badger and Skinny Pete.
Yep.
Two of the best supporting characters on Breaking Bad.
He's even sitting like the captain. Look at that.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's fantastic. He's
What's
fantastic.
the other guy?
I wasn't hugely impressed. Well, I was, but I wasn't. I'm not a Breaking Bad. Like, I've been trying to get into it because everybody's saying you'll love it, you'll love it. As I've been watching it's trying to like want to love it. It just for me, it reminds me of certain things I've had to deal with in my environment in the last couple of years.
I want one of those chairs.
It was hard to get into
real.
it, but I like the performances, and I like those two, Skinny Pete and the other guy. Yeah, when I watched El Camino, because Sean told me yesterday, you don't have to have finished the whole series to enjoy this, because the recap was quite.
You don't. They actually do have a really.
The recap is really good.
They give you just enough information to understand, what's going on.
I want to point something out that was brought up by the director Gilligan. Producer Gilligan,
Vince,
his last name.
Gilligan, yeah.
Yeah.
Gilligan.
One of the things he pointed out was as throughout the entire series, and it was especially in this one, is the color of people's clothing was visually important and as a thematical thing in Breaking Bad, because people that start off with the best of intentions, they start off with lighter clothes and their clothes get darker as they go down a dark path. And the main character in this one, he starts wearing white sweaters again, and that was actually important because it was showing that he was trying to get on the right path. And I thought that was very interesting when I heard about that, because there was this one podcast that was showing all the examples. Actually, I think it was Looper. They were showing the examples of the transition of even Walter White, where he went from like beige colored clothes to wearing dark clothes all the way to the end. And, and his partner there, what's his name again? The main character?
Walter White?
No, the other guy, the one from El Camino. Yeah, him, Jesse.
Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah, Jesse Pinkman starts off with lighter clothes in the beginning of the series, and he never quite gets too dark, but sort of there. And then this one, throughout the movie, he's getting lighter and lighter clothes to where because it's sort of like showing he's trying to get back on track. He's trying to redeem his life. And I like that conversation in the beginning with the guy when he was talking about going to Alaska. I'm not spoiling too much here. I'm just saying they had a very important conversation about how you can't really make up for your past. You kind of have to just move forward. I thought there was some great dialogue in this. For me, though, I never, like a lot of people, got into the show and finished it yet. But I appreciated what they were doing. And obviously the acting and the directing and the cinematography and everything was fantastic. And I know this show has a huge cult following, and I appreciate that.
It's more than a cult following. It's a mainstream success.
I understand that. Some shows take me a little longer to get into because of the themes going on. Like I said, if I had seen Breaking Bad maybe 4 years ago, I probably would have been totally like everybody else. But last couple of years living in certain bad neighborhoods and things, and it kind of reminded me of the whole drug culture and things going on. So it was hard. Sometimes it just made me trigger and just say, it was hard for me to get into it.
That's too bad, because
I'm going to try it.
You're missing out.
I know.
Keep trying.
I'm going to keep trying.
It's worth it.
I think
it's
really
a lot of
just
things, it's such an amazing show.
And I think some shows, depending on where you are in your life, are either going to work for you or they're not. And sometimes you can revisit it later and appreciate it. So
yeah. Well, good luck with that. And I think, one of the things, and I think I might have mentioned this before on an earlier one of our shows, I was really skeptical about Better Call Saul. When they first announced it, because I really thought, because we've seen this happen a lot, where you've had like really perfect movies or really perfect TV shows, and it feels like they're just trying to milk it for everything. Yeah, Aftermatch is a very good example, and normally they suck. And but Better Call Saul has been amazing. It has not missed a beat at all in its.
Did they put out?
Let's wait a second. Okay, so and so when I heard about El Camino and saw the trailer, which they kept this whole movie under wraps until relatively recently.
Oh, that's right.
And then so they released an entire trailer, and it was a big surprise, which was brilliant marketing. And I was anticipating it a lot, because now I have faith in Vince Gilligan's ability to pull off these kinds of sequels and really have them stand on their own and breathe new life into what could have been a tired franchise. So I'm a fan for sure.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about El Camino.
Sean is in a room.
You mean that shit right there?
That's the one. It's so
Sean
weird to
is
see you indoors for once.
Yeah.
I'm in my
I
garage.
know.
It's too cold outside. It's
Sean, you
58.
missed
What
all
is
the
it,
fun.
like 70 degrees or something?
58.
Oh, that's cold.
Oh, that is cold for Vegas.
Joe and Sean are both in garages right now.
Yep.
And
I'm in a basement. I
basement.
think George is in a bathroom. Are you in a
No.
bathroom, George?
I'm where I've always been.
I see. I know,
we
but I
have said
see
that
lots
so
of
many
pipes
times.
and stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm
which,
thinking-
this is actually an ancient Victorian building that just turned into an apartment complex.
Ross is in a basement as well.
Carlos is in a basement.
Ross is being held
We're
hostage.
No, my
basically-
apartment building was an ancient
we're
I'm
basically
being censored
banished.
by the Chinese.
We're basically banished to the parts of the house where.
Yeah, we were hacked,
This is-
man.
This is
I've
how
been
you can tell.
non-personed.
This is how you can tell we're true nerds, right?
Yes.
Because we're on YouTube, Sean, not on Facebook, because we were forced, in a good way, I think, to migrate.
So the big question is:
Good.
are you wearing pants, Sean?
Yeah, are you?
Well, since you asked, I am
Oh
not.
my God!
Oh my
Sit
God.
down. There are kids.
Why did you ask? Why did you ask?
And banned.
We're banned on Twitch.
Oh my
Suspect.
God.
And on YouTube.
And actually,
Hey,
in celebration
if they let Donald Trump on Twitch, I think it's okay
Yeah.
to see his
Who,
legs.
who let
Right.
Trump on Twitch?
Somebody did. He's on there now.
I know the
Oh,
British
God,
Parliaments
help
have their
us.
own channel.
That's
and
as of like
it's-
today.
Oddly entertaining.
Last night, Donald Trump officially had a Twitch channel because he live streamed his Minnesota speech.
Oh, God.
God.
Next thing you know, he'll be in Discord.
Yeah,
No.
there's probably more than enough Trump praise discords out there, both the ironic and the non-ironic ones.
Did you guys notice my badass shirt celebrating the 40th anniversary of the film Alien?
I did notice that.
Thank you.
Oh, I couldn't tell. I thought it was a wrestling shirt.
Is something going to burst out of that?
I just see W. You know. It's not like,
Yeah, but here's my question. Is something going to burst out of that?
Well, it's more likely something that burst out of my pantsless nether regions.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. TMI, dude. So, Sean, since you're here and you've been the most anxious to talk about this,
Yes.
you wouldn't have liked what I just said. But anyways,
No.
Let's-
But I'm very curious to hear your opinion on this.
I'll summarize it because we just talked about it.
Okay.
I was saying I would have, if I had watched Breaking Bad as a series a few years ago before I was forced to live in some bad neighborhoods and the drug culture, I would have appreciated it a lot more from a different perspective. But for me, it was triggery. So I liked it. I thought the performances were great, but I didn't get into it the way you guys did. And I think it's because of that. So I was coming at it from a different.
I can understand that when you come from an atmosphere of that culture, that it can be very disconcerting. I get that. I mean, it's kind of like.
You know what's really interesting though about that is that the perspective, at least of Breaking Bad, was it started out as a very suburban show. I mean,
Right.
he was a high school chemistry teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in a
A
suburban
Nobel Prize winning chemistry
almost
Right.
a Nobel Prize winner, which is part of the problem. So, I mean, so what's interesting to me is that it starts out with this and is framed that way for a good chunk of the series.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that when you get into the sort of the seamy part
Underbelly.
and even then it's,
Yep.
you don't see a lot of it. It's much more about, the big production facility that they create for it and how it's hidden and Gus Fring's whole
Well, yeah,
with the chicken, Los Pollos
Los
Hermanos
Hermanos,
thing.
yes.
So you don't see that seamy side a lot, but what you do see is really, really dark.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
really
and
dark.
it's an interesting take on this because I hadn't really thought about it until you just brought it up. But when you look at it from the beginning, I mean, our main two characters, we have Walter White, who is pure suburbanite, but then we have Jesse Pinkman, who's a suburbanite himself.
He is
but
himself.
He's got his toes deep into those other waters, and he wound up bringing that with him. And it's interesting with Breaking Bad that it's like you said, it's all under the surface. Everything seems normal. For example, like Los Pues Hermanos, Gus Fring put on this front of being this community leader, this suburban guy. I mean, that house he had in the suburbs could belong to any of my neighbors. You know what I mean? It is the type of thing and it's. I think part of what they were trying to do, what Vince Gilligan was trying to do, was paint this picture of, it's not always what it looks like on the surface. And I think
you think of like drug dealing as this like really, seamy underbelly of society, and in fact, it's like quite high up, with the kinds of people and interact with every day.
Exactly. And what's interesting too that I've said about I watched a video that kind of confirmed this. My theory on this yesterday. I watched the series for the 5th time straight through about the same time George started watching it. I kind of did it. I did it to support George because I wanted to be able to talk to him about it.
I'm still going to finish it. I just couldn't.
Oh, I know why you are.
Get there yet.
It's okay. Good. It's all good. I just there's something that I picked up from the beginning of the series, and I don't know if this was intentional on the writer's part, but I think it just evolved into what it really kind of became. Is that from the beginning, Walter White was Heisenberg. He was just wearing the mask of Walter White. He was an evil guy from the beginning. He just covered it up. I mean, and you see moments of this right from the very first episode. The kind of rage and the kind of like what an evil duty really is, peeking its head out. And of course, it gets progressively worse as the series progresses. And you see just how narcissistic he is. He truly is. But there's always been this idea that we're watching this mild-mannered good guy turn into a bad guy. And my theory on this now is that, no, he was always a bad guy. He just finally got rid of the mask is what he did.
That's interesting that you said that, because it makes me look forward to like seeing more of how that happens now. Because I watched the recap. Mm-hmm. Of course, like you suggested, like I haven't finished the show, but I know I got the recap, so I know he's going to end up that way. But I don't mind that kind of a spoilery thing, because I'm like one of those guys who can watch the end of something and go backwards to see how it happens, sort of like watching the prequel.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, I've seen it 5 times through, and the reason why I keep watching is I keep catching something new.
But what you just said makes me more curious to possibly.
George, and this is the big appeal of Breaking Bad that I haven't been able to verbalize with you so much, but it's like when I think about it, this is really what it comes down to: is that there's so much depth in the show and so many different things you can take from it that it's a type of show you can go back and watch over, like BSG, okay, like the Ron Moore Battlestar Galactica. You can keep going back and getting something more out of it. And again, this is what I got out of it this time. It's like, God damn, Walt was a fucker from the beginning, wasn't he?
Well, I mean, especially as you go through the series and you learn about you see the flashbacks of everything that led up to what we said, and you see exactly why and how the origin of that sort of rage and disaffection that, once the world really turned on him, when he was diagnosed with the cancer, it just unleashed all of that. It was already in there, ready to be unleashed, and this just waiting for the right circumstances, which came, and boom.
Exactly. He needed he needed the trigger, and he got it. As for the film, I got through about the first 20 minutes of it, and I was going, okay, what's going on here? And then by the end, I was in love. I love this movie so much. I can't say enough about it. I thought they did an amazing job of giving closure to Jesse's story. And it's a story I didn't really think needed closure until I saw this movie. And I was really impressed exactly how they kind of slow burn this through 2 hours and 2 minutes. And, we're able to, it's like we talk about how a lot of series, like with the Star Wars and Star Trek, and how they bring back characters, and it's like, you get worried about too much fan service. Well, I didn't get the feeling that, and I counted, other than with including Jesse, there were 12. They said there were going to be 11, but that must have not included Jesse. So there were 11.
Oh, Sean, real quick, we're not doing spoilers this week. Just
I'm not going to spoil this.
Okay, you weren't here when we decided that.
No,
so.
there were 11 characters from Breaking Bad plus Jesse that were in this. And this was in an article a few weeks ago, George, so I'm not revealing anything. They didn't tell us who, and I counted them as we went through the film last night. And I can't think of a single instance where a single one of the characters was shoehorned in there, that it wasn't appropriate for the character to be in there in context. And, that's pretty amazing that they have this feature film and that it wasn't just fan service. I again appreciated Jesse's slow burn on this, and you realize what his goal is pretty quickly. But again, it's done it feels like a feature film. It does not feel like an episode of the show.
And it actually is being released in some theaters.
Right, it is. I think there's 63 theaters across the country that are releasing it. And I don't care that I've seen it and I'm going to see it again on Netflix. I really want to see this in the big screen because it is a beautifully shot movie. But it still does play out as far as the scenes are concerned. It does play out like Breaking Bad does, where you get you go to your flashbacks to things that got us here, some things you knew about, some things you didn't know about, and it just adds more layers and more depth to it. And really, it was a great send off for Jesse. It really was. I thought it was a perfect way to give that character, the other main lead in the series, the closure the character really needed. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have seen it's like funny because it's well received by the critics, but it's like the fans have like a mixed reaction to it. It's like I guess they were expecting it would be an additional 2 episodes of Breaking Bad, and it's not like that. It's
not. Although in a lot of ways it is.
Well, that's what I mean. Like the way it's done, it is, but it's very much a feature film, is what it is.
Well, this is Deadwood. Yeah. When Deadwood did their movie, yeah.
So I like that. I would highly recommend it. Absolutely. I wish I could figure out how to get that not so blasting. So I had something cool on my shoulder. How do you do that? How do you control the? See, I got lights. It's the movie. It is
brightness.
It's not that bright. It's
well, if it was further in the background, actually, it would be easier because it would even it out. But
probably,
if you're doing it with a regular webcam, it's hard to have that kind of control.
Do you see how far away Carlos's screen is? And
it's over in the corner.
And you would be able to see. You would be able to see.
You had first contact on that. That's what inspired.
That's right. I did the other day. I can put it on over here if you want.
Well, you had first contact back there last time I was here.
Before we go on to the short tracks topic, I actually think
Justin,
I want to share something that has been going viral. I know a couple of you have seen it, and a couple of you have been waiting to react to it here.
Better live up to the hype.
I think you're going to be laughing pretty hard. It's something that happened with Freddie Prinze Jr. He did a little. You just have to see it. He went on a podcast. And he's been on Star Wars Rebels as a main character, Sean knows. And he had something to say about the haters out there just being like the way that certain people like Mecca and them are with Star Trek, about how people that are with Star Wars. And he had something to say. He did not hold back at all. And people are like praising him. And this is it's only a quick 3 minutes. And trust me, it's worth it. So let me just quickly share that. It's worth it. Trust me.
This goes out to the Dark Circle.
The Dark Circle. That's right. All right, here we go.
God damn it. Grubhub canceled my order.
I did a Star Wars cartoon, so even I get hate from Star Wars fans when I'm like, look, dog, you're just mad the franchise isn't aging with you.
Right.
But that ain't how it works. The first one was for fucking kids.
Right.
The second 3 were for different fucking kids.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is for kids. You just pissed off that Han Solo gave the fucking Millennium Falcon to a girl. That's it. Because Luke Skywalker's Cinderella. Or Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Okay, he can talk to things that don't speak English and understands what they're fucking saying.
Yeah.
He gets a fairy godfather instead of a fairy godmother who teaches him how to be the best Jedi in the world in no time fucking flat. And everybody, like, I know more about the Force than most people because Dave Filoni taught me and George Lucas taught him. And all these video games have fucked people up on what the Force is. Like, Luke's skill doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses.
Right.
The Emperor doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. The Force dictates who wins or loses based on balance. And here's the quick version on how to explain it to all these people who fucking think they get to decide. In the first if you want to do this like time-wise, Palpatine, you would say, and Yoda are the smartest too. Palpatine clearly smarter because Yoda was blind to the power of the dark side and the seduction of Anakin. So let's talk about the seduction of Anakin fucking Skywalker for a second. If the Emperor is the smartest dude in the universe and knows that the Force dictates this, if he kills who he sees as a rival, Anakin, then he knows the Force is just going to fucking correct that because the Emperor knows this. These are George Lucas's words, not mine. So fuck you if you disagree with me. Straight up, this is information, not affirmation time. Straight up, man. So the Emperor knows that. So instead of killing Anakin, what does he do? He seduces Anakin to double the strength of the dark side. So then what does the Force do?
Balance.
It balances us. How? It gives us twins, Luke and Leia, 2 and fucking 2. Balance. And if you look at the movie through just that simple perspective, you will not only know why every single bad guy loses and every single good guy loses, you'll know who's going to win and lose in the next fucking movies. I can tell you, I just don't want to wreck it. People bitch about the dumbest shit like it's archetype characters. This is George Lucas's words. There is no Jack Bauer in Star Wars. That character doesn't exist.
I love that part. There is no
hero.
Jack Bauer.
He's a reluctant hero. That's the archetype. Darth Maul, who everybody wants to win, and he's everyone's favorite because he looks sick and he's great in the video games.
He does look cool.
Fuck you guys. He's Sisyphus. He is born to fail. Learn your Greek mythology like, I don't know, George fucking Lucas did. He's cursed to roll a boulder off the hill only to have it roll to the bottom again every single time for eternity. That is Darth Maul's quest.
Yes.
He's in on the joke, you guys. He knows it. He's just cursed to live that life. Again, not my opinion, George Lucas's. So go fuck yourself if you disagree. You don't get to level up in the Star Wars world. That's a fucking video game. There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. Qui-Gon even says, I turn towards the light because it's there. There's no gray. There's no, that's pretend fan fiction shit, which is cool, but don't try to canonize it because it doesn't work. And I'm never going to buy it, ever. Star Wars is for fucking kids. Sorry. I'm sorry, man.
In summation, Star Wars is for fucking kids.
And you know, the thing is, there's plenty to disagree with in what he said, but his overall
what
point,
he said was gold.
Yeah.
Star Wars is for kids. Like George Lucas said it. Like if you look at any of the behind the scenes things that have been written about Star Wars, particularly around Empire Strikes Back, the tension between him and Irving Kershner and was around George Lucas wanting again and again to go the for kids route and everyone else trying to make it more for adults, and which is why Empire is so much a better movie out of the first three, because it wasn't just for kids. But the overall franchise, as controlled by George Lucas, for sure in the first one, and then again in the third one after he purged all the people who wanted to make it for adults, and then obviously through the next three prequels.
Well, you could call
that's
that
all George Lucas, and that's why it's as frankly weak as it is. It's because he did make it for kids. Every creative choice that he made in those prequels always defaulted for what would be the best choice for kids.
You could tell he was holding this back for a long time, and he just exploded. It was great.
Well, it's important to point out that that rant is more than a year old.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. It's not.
It's only just getting
it was only
viral
just
today.
posted.
Yeah,
it was only just posted today on Instagram, but that podcast was recorded a year ago.
Oh well, that's hey, you know what? It's still relevant. So
it's so funny.
You know, that makes more sense because he was saying it fresh off the hate for The Last Jedi. Then now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
That fresh off the hate that will not die for
That
the Last
hate
Jedi.
that will not die.
God.
Did you guys see it today with doofus Nerdrotic. Did you see that?
I did watch Nerdrotic today. His whole thing also centered on that whole point about Star Wars is for kids, and he refused to believe it. He refused to believe it.
Really?
When it's actually like this is documented that this is what George Lucas.
Oh,
wanted.
I don't know what would have possibly have given it away, considering the fact that the fucking toys have made more than the films have by a factor of 5.
I have fortunately missed on a lot of the Star Wars hate, but that's because I'm bogged down waist deep in the Star Trek hate. I saw a video
there's
come around
plenty of
today
that to
the
go
whole
around.
point of Star Trek Picard is to attack the fans.
I just
wait a minute. Sean just unintentionally said something hilarious because the people who made the first Rogue Squadron was a group called Factor 5.
I love when he said the part about the Gray Jedi. I was drinking something.
Oh yeah,
at the time,
that's
I
hilarious.
spit it out.
I was watching Sean when he said that. Sean's like,
You guys, can't see me.
Yeah, that was my sarcastic. Oh my God, how could you? Because he's so right. There's
he's so right.
Gray Jedi.
The idea of Gray Jedi is just it completely muddies the whole point of the Force.
Misses the point of the entire franchise.
It's cool, but it's fan shit.
Somebody needs to do a rant like this for Star Trek.
We got to find someone with.
Hey, I hate to break it to Star Wars fans, and I am a Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
This shit ain't that deep. It really isn't.
It really
it's
isn't.
not that deep.
No, it is not that deep.
It's basic.
It's
fantasy.
it's archetypal. I
Right,
mean,
and
it's very.
Sure.
It taps into the reason. I mean, it gets its hooks into people is because these are very classic storytelling archetypes.
Well, he even called it like the Greek mythology comparison.
Well, that was my favorite part of the whole rant was saying that Darth Maul was Sisyphus, which is my favorite Greek myth because it is so very typical of my life so far.
It's and that's what makes it so accessible. That's what it comes down to. It's relatable. We get it. It's not that deep. It's
when it comes right down to it, Star Wars is exactly like every Greek myth.
For those that don't know in the audience,
by design.
The gods are the Force,
but just
the Force is a dick.
Yeah, but just for those that don't know in the audience, because not everybody watches the cartoons and stuff. Freddie Prinze Jr., the reason he has kind of a right to talk like this, he played the major character, a Jedi, one of the last Jedi, named Kanan, in Star Wars Rebels. And
George, who is your audience? You think they don't know this?
Some people might not. Not everybody is into Star Wars. Some of them just like.
I didn't know this because I've never watched Rebels.
Oh, but
there you go. You got to make sure.
So you informed son and no one else.
Yeah,
and
I mean, hey, I know more now than I did 5 minutes ago.
Now we need one of those NBC's "The More You Know" banners to go across.
All right, let's talk about that awesome short trek, The Trouble with Edward.
Hold on, give me.
The Trouble with Edward.
Okay.
Who would like to go first?
How about you, Sean, since you were the last one to see it?
Do you want troubles? Because that's how you get tribbles.
Lada.
That's all I could think about this whole time. It was I have never laughed so much at Star Trek than I did during those 15 minutes. And then I was like, and that extra scene, I was like, what the holy fuck is this?
He's talking about the post-credit scene.
Yeah, the post-credit.
Those of you who haven't watched that part,
post-credits commercial.
Stayed after.
People are still arguing that. Oh, silly. I don't know if that's canon or not. I'm like, are you serious?
It's canon, dude. It's canon.
It is, but it's like not serious.
Because I said so.
Oh, all right.
It's canon because it's on screen. So there you go.
That's it. Live action's on screen, bitches. It's canon.
It's a commercial. Oh, I loved it.
Set your replicators to dribbles.
We're pregnant with flavor.
And they just kept falling
That
out of the
part was
box.
great. The three little dribbles going, we're pregnant with flavor.
I watched this over and over and over and over and over. Not in a row, but like.
I would have absolutely loved to have seen a commercial like that at Quark's Bar.
Oh my God.
The Edward character just cracked me up when the captain, she looks over, she says, so she got an anonymous Starfleet got a complaint from an anonymous person. She's like, and you don't know what you're doing, and you're dumb. And then he's just like, and he's just sitting there going, oh, I wonder who sent that, because it wasn't me, because it was probably sent anonymously, and that means anonymous means you don't know who sent it. And he's, oh my God, that whole
look. I don't think they could have cast anyone better than H. John Benjamin.
H. John Benjamin and may have been perhaps the only person who could have done this role.
Yeah,
I really hope.
It's like I get this feeling that it's like a bunch of guys were sitting around one night, and there was a lot of weed involved. And somebody said, "Okay, we have got to figure out how we can squeeze H. John Benjamin into an episode or some shit. Come up with something, guys." And somebody was like, "I got it."
Tribbles.
And there you have it. Yep. It was so perfect.
I wonder, has anybody seen? Has David Gerald made any kind of comment on this?
Oh, I don't know. It's curious. I don't know.
He's the one that made the Trouble with Tribbles, right?
He wrote the Trouble with Tribbles.
Right, that's what I meant. Yeah, okay. I like it when he compared the Tribbles to eating them like a scallop.
Oh yeah, blood red.
I had just eaten scallops the night before, so I was like, oh my God.
I thought it was hilarious. He's like, yeah, underneath the fur, they're all meat. Or the other classic line, which I loved, when the captain is like, are they sentient? And he goes, well, it's hard to tell because, they don't have any faces.
Yeah.
It's like he made absolutely nope. He had an idea, and he just he wanted to. His entire being was wrapped around this idea and proving that idea right. No matter what happened, he was going to go forward with his.
Oh yeah, and his whole thing about well, I can genetically manipulate them so they're born brain damage. if you're worried about them being sentient,
he was not prepared at all for anything. He just had this. And this is everything that I have. Yeah. This is my entire purpose.
But he was amazingly quick on his feet for answers to this.
This seems like an amazing parallel to this group that you guys cannot stop talking about. The Dark Circle.
Oh, yeah. Well, another part I loved is when she's like trying to just get transfer him, and she says, okay, this conversation is over. And he goes, but no, this conversation is over, which means it's over. And he's like, well, technically, if I keep talking,
oh my God, that was hilarious.
The conversation's not over.
I can only, that was like when I heard that, all I could think of was, oh, that's Hayden. That's so Hayden. That's something Hayden would say. Well,
people that don't have a sense of humor are complaining about how there's not realistic that this guy could have made it this far in Starfleet. Of course, there's always someone in the military or anywhere that like somehow slipped, and then their personality didn't really come out until later.
People don't realize that people can start off perfectly fine and rational, but when they get obsessed with something, and this can happen much later in their career. This whole notion that he was always this way is just.
This is why we have Starfleet Badmirals.
We've also never seen a Starfleet officer stand in the middle of the passageway like the picture Justin
in his underwear
right now in his tidy whiteys. People are still
that part was hilarious.
23rd century.
He's like standing there. There it is. Thank you, Justin. It's like
everybody's like reacting to him like it's normal. Nobody's like, oh.
I have to say something.
In the hallway again.
I want to say something. There's a lot of unfair, stupid comparisons to Barclay. Let me point something out.
Okay, first of all, the only comparisons I've seen to Barclay has been the one you've made, George.
No, I've seen it all on my feed, all over the place. I can name names, but then
I'm in all the stupid Star Trek groups you are, where people keep.
No, it's not a group. It's on my main. It's people you know and I know.
It's individuals.
It's individuals, and I could name people. All right, I'll type it in the chat.
Sean's giving them the stink eye.
You name those fuckers and
shame
them.
Wow.
Shame them.
No.
So a couple of others too, but my thing is that Barclay was a genius. He just is socially awkward and couldn't communicate well. This guy was an actual idiot, as they made it very clear. He was an idiot.
I'm sorry. I just don't have any patience for this comparison. Like, I don't see anything to talk about.
But I have heard it.
It's just ridiculous.
The only similarity is that they're socially awkward, and that's very broad.
Exactly.
But the only socially awkward people we've seen in Starfleet are Barclay and him.
And
Barclay
Tilly a little bit.
Works to improve himself.
Right. Exactly.
Edward, on the other hand, is kind of...
He didn't give a shit.
Nice.
He's like, no fucks given kind of thing.
No. I'm gonna.
He's obsessed with eating tribbles and making
That-
enough tribbles for the crew. To
Oh, and
eat.
that one line when he's like talking about, I could, they'd be good for food because we could hunt them, and they're really slow. And he goes,
Splicing his own DNA.
Yeah, don't
into
spoil it
them.
all. Don't spoil it all. We
Yeah.
probably spoiled too much. Folks at home, go
It's a
see
15
it.
minutes episode. It's
I have
hard
to-
not to.
Spoiler alert.
Not spoiling it, but the thing is, it was very refreshing to see a pure, straight up comedy episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
It was, especially considering that, okay, it's like they gave us that first one, which was enjoyable in of itself, and it had many funny moments in it.
Yep.
But they gave us that first one, and now they leave us with that second one because, a week later, because now it's like they gotta soften the blow that we're not gonna get any for another month. But we're all
And the one that's coming next, by the way,
we'll all be salivating for that one that comes in a month, though. That's for
the one
sure.
that comes in a month is the one that's
It's
in the
like
trailer.
heroin. They give you the first one free, so you're
Right.
hooked.
But the
In
next
this
one
case,
is the
it's
one where
first two,
best
but-
quality too.
the next one is the one where Pike is apparently held captive by a crew member in the trailer. That's the one that we're getting next.
Oh,
So it seems
cool.
it's a very serious
cool.
one. So
Speaking of which, since we're on the subject of Pike, I did want to show this that I finally got a frame for because the poster is in a really weird size. So I finally got a frame for my
Nice.
Lovely.
And
That's
it
awesome.
got an autograph by Anson Mount. Sean, be bold, be brave, be courageous.
cool.
Nice.
So yeah.
Awesome.
One last thing I do got to say about the trouble with Edward. To everyone who's kind of complaining about this episode, it's not one you're supposed to take seriously.
Right.
Warren.
Exactly.
Oh, did you say Oren?
Yes.
Oh, was he complaining
Hi,
about it?
Oren.
Oh yeah, he was complaining about it.
So I'll be honest. I haven't seen the episode. I've seen the snippet of the commercial. That's it, right?
Mhm.
The way you guys are discussing this, is he a disguised Klingon because he
No.
can't stop,
No,
No.
he's basically okay. If Michael
he
Scott
can't
joins,
stop trying to eat the
if
Michael
tribbles?
Scott.
if Michael Scott joins Starfleet and
There
that's
it is.
who this guy would be. That's what it is.
He's
If
the guy
Mike-
that voiced Archer. They were trying to take his comedic thing and it
Yeah,
worked.
So
The whole
Bob's
point
Burgers?
is that this vessel, the science vessel, the USS Cabot, has been dispatched, and they have a new captain who's just been promoted off of the Enterprise, whose job it is. Their job, they've been assigned to help this one world that's suffering from a huge famine, and so
Right.
they're trying to help them
Okay.
feed themselves. They're doing some terraforming. They're looking at all different ways to be able to help them become self-sufficient with food.
So I assume
So-
they find the
so-
tribble on the planet.
No,
No. This
Okay.
guy,
He brought his
Edward
own.
has already found the tribble, and he's like, they're all meat. So if we just make more of them, they can eat them.
and
Because
they breed slow. I could speed that up. I could do this, and
and so he speeds up the reproductive thing.
Oh,
so
now
that they're
we're
born-
really into spoiler territory.
Oh,
Yeah, well, like he said, it's a
Well,
15
we've all
minute thing,
seen
it's hard
triple
not to
episodes
spoil it.
before. We know how they go.
Right.
Yeah.
Except in
that's
this case,
true.
they seem to be even more prolific
the
than we've
origin.
seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very clever way to make a backstory to retcon the story of the Tribbles.
Yeah.
And the
And-
music, I love the music.
Oh my god,
It
the
was
color
very
it was a
reminiscent
throwback.
of
It
the
was
early
great.
triple episodes.
Yep, it was a throwback. Very, very
This
much
was,
inspired by
A
the
couple of
original.
throwbacks to the other triple episodes too.
Yeah,
Oh, a lot.
like
Yeah.
when she sat on one.
Well,
Yeah,
at
that
least
was
they
nice.
didn't-
just
when
like
they come
Kirk
out,
did.
yeah.
My favorite thing was the guy with the vacuum cleaner on his back, just sucking
Oh
them
my
up. And
God.
Oh yeah, like
Oh
an
my
elephant's
God.
trunk.
You know what? Here's
That
the
was
thing.
hilarious.
Here's the thing.
Man,
I swear to God, I have to find that. I swear
Yeah.
to God, that is from Family Guy somewhere. It's not Tribbles. It's something else where
The
someone's just
cat
going
gun.
to just sucking something up like that. I'm sure of it. I can't recall it. It's like what do you call it? Like Mandela effect, almost like here. Like it probably didn't happen. I just think it happened now. But no, I've seen that before. There's no
Are you
question
thinking
about
of Adam West and the cat gun,
it. What now?
Hmm.
the cat launcher?
No, but that's amazing too.
I can't think of any other place that's done anything resembling tribbles except My Little Pony.
Wow. Yeah. So
They did
I
Tribbles.
mean,
They did Tribbles on My Little Pony, for instance.
Yeah, except they were flying.
To me, this was the best short track so far.
Flying
of all of them.
tribbles,
Yes.
flibbles.
I forget what they called them, but it was hilarious.
And if you,
Well, at least they
or
didn't give
fribbles.
these tribbles back from the dead properties like they did.
Or make them cannibalistic.
I have a cannibalistic tribble.
They made you think
Okay.
it though in the commercial.
Yeah.
But anyways,
If
It
you
would've
guys
been an
seen it,
interesting
I have a mirror universe tribble I got from the convention. I have two. The kids got him.
Oh,
He's
that's
got
right.
He's got big, sharp, pointy teeth like the bunny from Holy Grail.
Joe, any thoughts before we switch topics on specifically on your end about what you thought of this?
Just like I said, I mean, I enjoyed the episode, and the music was awesome, especially the end credits music. It was great.
Yep. All right. So I have to go to the bathroom real quick, but before I do, Ross, why don't you lead us into the next interesting discussion?
I gotta take a dump.
boy.
Ross,
I'll be right
take
back.
over.
Oh boy. All right, we got the light stuff out of the way. Now it's time to get into some heavy stuff. Some concerning and possibly depressing stuff.
Oh, speaking of which, well, hey, well, that's
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh. Oh no!
no.
They found
God.
me! They found me!
Oh my God, we've been censored. I'm sorry.
All right, good. They're gone.
I suddenly have a craving to worship George, and I don't know why.
Oh.
All right. So last weekend at a Hearthstone tournament in Taiwan, or excuse me, Chinese Taipei.
Mm-hmm.
Hearthstone is a digital collectible card game developed by Blizzard Entertainment and is absolutely huge all around the world, but especially in Asia.
Right.
Justin.
There's the cat gun.
The cat crossbow. Carry
Continue, Ross.
on, Ross.
The winning player named Blitzchung, Blitzchung, during his post-game interview wore a gas mask and spoke the words "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution for our age." He is a Hong Kong native and has been actively taking part in the protests and demonstrations there. The feed was immediately cut and went to an ad. And almost immediately after that, Blizzard announced from their local affiliate that his $1,000 award had been clawed back, and he was banned from competing for an entire year. They also sacked both of the commentators who were there participating. This was met with some pretty immediate backlash from the community at large across the Western world, especially when they took a look at the both from the punishment given and from the local press release as well. How to put this? Brain farting here. Your staring is not helping.
A lot of the big backlash though is also from the ruling quoted to ban the player as well.
Yes, the ruling being vaguely worded, and I'm paraphrasing, that any act or speech that could defame or look poorly on Blizzard. That is one of the rules that everyone agrees to when they.
That's so fucking
participate.
generic.
Yes, exactly, and it allows them very broad latitude, and that's what they quoted in their punishment.
Of course, it's stated at the very beginning at Blizzard's sole discretion.
True.
Right.
It's the kind of thing, though, in courts end up finding that sort of stuff is arbitrary
like that at all, right.
because it's just too vague and too broad for an enforceable thing, because it just gives them more power than they should be able to have. They need to have more specific terms of service than just don't say anything mean.
So because of
because Sean's not wearing pants, and what a big butt.
You must
wear because of the context.
I have a tiny butt. It's other areas.
Oh, it's not tiny when you shove it in the camera.
Well, that's true.
That's
Hollywood magic, son.
That's a filter.
So because of that, because of the context of his speech, a lot of people immediately interpreted that Blizzard was censoring him in order to appease the Chinese government so that they wouldn't be ousted from the Chinese market. And that is it's a reasonable thing to expect from
a reasonable assumption. Yes.
Well, particularly given what happened with the NBA as well. So
we'll get into that too because it does tie in. But since then, after a week of silence, Blizzard has walked back on their penalty. They've reduced his ban to 6 months, and they are going to grant him the winnings that he earned because he did play fairly. In a statement from Blizzard's president, J. Allen Brack, he said that they were reducing the ban for both Blitzchung and the 2 Taiwanese casters. And
and here's the thing, though. The statement. Okay, so the outcome of what they've done for what Blizzard has done with the reducing the sentence and giving back his prize and allowing the broadcasters to be able to be hired again, that's great. The statement, however, that he made before that is complete and utter bullshit and complete legalese to weasel out of whatever.
He doubled down on the rules on Blizzard's policy, saying that anyone that the interviews there are supposed to be about the game and the feelings about the competition and tying into values about bringing people together.
I have it in front of me. I can read it directly.
Go for it.
So this is the first and third sentence of this information of how it applies in this case. First, our official esports tournament broadcast was used as a platform for a winner of this event to share his views with the world, which is what the president just got through saying he wants Blizzard to be a platform for winners. Here's the third sentence in this paragraph. Over the weekend, Blitzchung used his segment to make a statement about the situation in Hong Kong. In violation of the rules he acknowledged and understood, and this is why we took action. You've literally just destroyed your own argument, Mr. President. You said he wants him to view his own, to share his views with the world, and yet you are literally going to punish him for sharing his views with the world.
And it's extra complicated because during the collegiate Hearthstone competition on Wednesday, a player held up a similar sign in support of the protest and in support of Blitzchung, and nothing happened to that player at all. The college games here in the United States happened. Yeah.
And they actually held up a sign that said "Free Hong Kong, boycott Blizzard."
Yes.
So in many senses, it was actually worse than Blitzchung's statement.
And nothing happened to them.
Joe. And nothing happened to them.
Do you guys mind?
Means that his statement saying that we would apply this rule unilaterally is kind of bullshit.
I want to read what Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park had to say when China wigged out about their episode about the censorship.
That ties it. But Joe had a question first.
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, it wasn't a question; it was a comment. Keep going. I'll chime in when it makes
sense. This all ties together.
Yeah, this is what they had to say as a
Sean can't hear you.
Their official.
George, I have a quick question. I've been on mute the whole time like a big freaking dope, so you couldn't hear me say, "I have a question." No, but sorry, my fault. Sorry about that.
Right.
I was on mute. Okay, where did this incident occur? Where did he?
Taiwan.
Okay, so
during a tournament called Hearthstone.
So this happened in
Hearthstone
Taiwan.
Grandmasters.
Okay, so all right, so continue because okay.
Okay, so this is they in the same vein as NBA and these guys. South Park did an episode where they kind of ragged on the censorship thing with China, and so China got outraged about that. So they made a apology. It is pretty funny, and I'm probably going to mispronounce something here, but official apology to China from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Like the NBA, we welcome the Chinese censors into our homes and into our hearts. We too love money more than freedom and democracy. Xi, I think I'm pronouncing it right. Xi doesn't look.
Xi Jinping.
Okay, doesn't look just like Winnie the Pooh at all. It's something they said on the show. Tune into our 300th episode this Wednesday at 10. Long live the Great Communist Party of China. May this autumn's sorghum harvest be bountiful. We good now, China?
Okay.
This is
all
contextual. Do you under right? Exactly.
Okay, now here's.
Do you understand? Wait a minute. Do you understand the Winnie the Pooh reference? It's not just about South Park. I know you guys do, but George, do you know what? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So the whole thing with Hearthstone was just the beginning, because that's the event that kind of tipped off people's interest in what's going on. Because first you had the Blitzchung ban, then you had the general manager of the Houston Rockets make a personal tweet in support of the Hong Kong protests, and now the Houston Rockets are persona non grata in China, and the NBA is absolutely huge there. Something I had no idea how popular it was. The team has been wiped from all existence over there. Their merchandise has been pulled from Nike, all Nike, and on top of that, then you had the South Park issue, where they're clearly getting a rise out of people. They're doing it on purpose to piss off China. And now all references to South Park, past, present, and future, are wiped from the Chinese internet.
That happened with Germany.
It does not exist.
Nonsense.
It does not exist.
So this is waking a lot of people up to the fact that for the last 20 years, China has been really worming its way into the financial the world financially. They're doing what the Soviets never couldn't figure out.
Yeah, they're actually really brilliantly insidious.
Yes,
and because this is most people haven't been noticing it, but you're absolutely right. Over the last 20 to 30 years, they have been progressing slowly but surely, ingratiating themselves with the world, holding out the fact that they are the single largest market on the planet.
Yep.
And at the same time, restricting and controlling access to that market.
Well, not just the largest
totally
market.
Brilliant.
Not just the largest market. They are the growth market. That is where everyone wants to get into because
they want to get into because it's the biggest market.
Yes,
that's
and
why.
There is room for growth there where there isn't room for growth everywhere else. And to top all of this off, where Blizzards can kind of be explained away as trying to appease their shareholders, because Chinese game publisher Tencent owns about 5% of Blizzard.
That's caused some of the outrages that for 5%.
But that's the thing, it's only 5%. It's a relatively small amount. However,
how much of their revenue, though?
Right, exactly.
Well,
ownership is
about
irrelevant.
a third of their revenue.
That's a lot.
It's 195 million to about 452 million in the West.
Yeah, but that's the real. That's the real thing.
Here's the big one. Here is the real red flag for me. Riot Games, an American games company, 100% owned by Tencent, has issued warnings to its players and its streamers and competitive players not to speak about sensitive topics in game or on stream.
I predict this is going to go really well. That's what I predict. I think I'm sure that all of these late teens, early 20s gamers are all going to react so well to being told what to fucking do by these mega corporations.
Okay, so let me ask this, since I don't play any of these games. Let me ask this. Are the games that Tencent has and that Blizzard has, are they so amazingly great that these people won't migrate to another service that does not restrict their speech?
It's not about that. It's about popularity. Is what it comes down to.
But popularity is based on how much you like.
League of Legends is pretty big. For a while, it's one of the top 5 games played around the world.
Yeah, it's a trending situation.
Okay, is Fortnite the biggest game on the planet right now?
Fortnite is number 1 or 2.
Okay, that is
but that's another topic.
That is the most dog shit game I've ever played in my life. Thank you.
Epic Games is 48%. Epic Games, who owns Fortnite, is 48% owned.
And like Rod said, that's another topic because we're going to get to that because they took a stand.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Epic Games, although Tencent has about 40% stake in the company, it is still technically privately owned, and Tim Sweeney, the founder and CEO, is the controlling shareholder. And he came out, made a official statement saying that so long as he is the controlling shareholder, so long as he controls Epic Games, he is not going to censor or penalize someone for using their rights of free speech.
Well, we can use that when it's tested.
True.
That's all I have to say on it.
True. I had a thing.
There is another very important weaselly. I see what you're doing, Blizzard. Point in the president's statement that he made just this evening. It says in this statement, every voice matters, and we strongly encourage everyone in our community to share their viewpoints in the many places available to express themselves. However, the official broadcast needs to be about the tournament and be a place where all are welcome. In support of that, we want to keep the official channels focused on the game.
Which is, it's...
You can only free speech in free speech area!
But at the same time, that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. It can be interpreted both ways on both sides of the argument. But
and the problem is, are you supposed to have like a lawyer on behind you to let you know when you're crossing that line, where that line even is? How are you supposed to know that?
I can tell you. Actually, let me speak up real quick because this is what I was going to say. So the problem was this happened during they were live. The stupid thing that they did was they did a live stream of this in a situation where someone, it's like with network television when they were doing live stream, you should have a delay so you can respond. If they're really worried about what someone might say, that's why they have delays on live shows usually. But with live streaming as a new thing, like they fight Blizzard.
I hate that idea. And
no, I'm just saying if they wanted to avoid that. I'm not saying it's a good idea.
I hate that idea because it is not free speech.
I agree.
The whole reason that they do that on broadcast channels is because the FCC, the people own the airwaves, and that is explicitly regulated by the government. So on that basis, that's the legal basis for why they can and why they do that. But this is online. The whole point of the web and the internet and online gaming and all of this is that it's not controlled by a government.
Right.
I agree with you. All I'm saying is if that was going to be an issue,
George.
If it was going to be an issue,
you why I hate it.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a list of all of the. I'm sorry, Justin. Go ahead.
Damn, I forgot what I was going to say.
Go ahead. Justin's a fucking Borg. What the fuck is going on?
That's like a Borg. I said that earlier.
Right.
Holy shit.
I have a list of all of the biggest companies that Tencent currently holds a stake in. I already said about Riot Games that's 100%. Epic Games at 40%. Bluehole, which makes PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which was the big battle royale game before Fortnite took over, is 11.5%.
And here's an important thing. Tencent is actually trying to acquire all of Bluehole, not just the 11% that they have.
Because PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is also really big in
which means they'll own both of the biggest shooter battle royale games in the world.
Let's all say Bluehole again.
I know. I can't help
it.
Ubisoft,
the French company, is owned at 5%.
We're all
Activision Blizzard at 5%.
Okay, now there's an interesting thing about the Ubisoft one. Ubisoft was Tencent acquired its 5% stake in Ubisoft because Ubisoft wanted to buy back its Vivendi licensing.
Yeah.
And part of that allowed Tencent to buy the 5%, but it restricted Tencent from further acquiring stakes in it and restricted Tencent from having voter stakes in Ubisoft.
Right. Vivendi being the former owners of Activision Blizzard before they separated.
Oh, fuck.
Yes, they are a French company that for a while owned some other huge media conglomerate. What was it?
So is Ubisoft. Is it
Ubisoft
is it
pretty big.
Is it Ubisoft or is it Ubisoft? I've always called it Ubisoft all these years. It's Ubisoft?
It's either.
Is it GIF? Is it GIF? Is it Ubi? Is it Ubi? I don't know.
It's GIF. Okay.
Universal. They used to own Universal.
Okay, so
it's actually technically
another one of the really.
I like. Speaking of which, since we're on the subject, Gary Shandling had a joke. He say, is it Porsche or is it Porsche? He goes, okay. Well, I came here tonight in my Toyota.
Yeah. So another really big game in the Eastern market and a bit in the West, Path of Exile. Its developer Grinding Gear Games is owned 80% by Tencent. And a few of the minor investments, Supercell is 84.3, Frontier Development at 9, Paradox Interactive, which is a big one for me, is 5%, Funcom, which makes Conan Adventures, that's the game where you can have a really big dick, that's 29%.
Frontier
that sounds like my kind of game.
Hey, you customize your character while they're being crucified, so it's all there.
That's the best timing ever.
Frontier Games is the studio that owns Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically,
Shark Mob, which is the ex-Division dev and the current dev of Hitman, is 100%. And finally, Discord, they invested $158 million into that.
No. There was an investment of 100 and something million, of which we don't know how much belongs to Tencent, but Tencent is listed as a donator.
Ah, okay, yeah, I see that. So just Tencent has its fingers everywhere. And Son, you pointed out a very interesting one.
Well, here's the thing. Let me play devil's advocate here for just a second. Okay. Just because they have a lot of financial interest doesn't necessarily mean they have controlling interest.
Yeah, they're diversified.
So I mean, it's important to know about how far and wide, their fingers are spread, but at the same time, we shouldn't make a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
I know.
Because the reality is China is, I think, or at least it was until fairly recently, was the single largest owner outside of the United States of U.S. Treasury bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're the country that carry the largest amount of debt for the United States.
Pretty sure they
in
still
the
do.
world, and I think that's still true. That doesn't mean they control us politically or anything else.
Yes, but owning a country's debt is different from owning a ownership stake in a business.
Sure, it is, but having a stake doesn't mean you have control over what that company does.
Unless you're talking about Riot, which they own all of it.
Well, yeah, but that's different. Of course, they have. But if they have 5% here, 10% here,
of what they're reaching,
and that's fine. I think I'm not decrying the fact that you're doing that. I'm just saying let's keep it in perspective. The perspective is that just because they own little pieces of a lot of companies doesn't mean that they somehow have this huge, broad control over their management or over their content or anything else.
No,
what it is really is
Apple
about them getting a lot. Let me finish, please. That they get a lot of money from things that people don't always know China is getting money from, and that's important to know. But don't conflate two different things.
And can we also take a moment to appreciate that this is not being fought on the battlefield? Like this is all being figured out. We're talking about freedom of speech. We're talking about video games. We're talking about sports. We're talking about media and culture. Like, isn't it nice that we're figuring this out in this medium instead of going head to head?
I can speak to that.
Yeah,
I can speak to that because when I was in the Army back in 1994, we had they gave us a briefing how China's the only country in the world that could actually defeat and occupy us. They have the numbers and they have the power to technically possibly do that.
Get across the ocean first.
So right.
Okay.
But,
first of all, that's not true.
That's what the Army told me. I'm just telling you what they said back in 1994.
That's propaganda. Here's the thing, because first of all, China has. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm almost done. The point is that the idea was give them an economic dependency so that we don't have to ever go to war with them. It becomes, like you guys were saying, it becomes all about a kind of a business war instead of an economic war instead of actual war. That's the idea. Whether the other stuff was propaganda or not.
That wasn't Joe's point. Joe's point was that we are dealing with these issues through talk. We are dealing with these issues through social media. We are dealing with these issues basically because the Howard Stern show made it appropriate for people to run up on stage and yell, Papa Booey, Papa Booey, Papa Booey. So
Okay.
Justin's been trying to say something for about 5 minutes.
Has he?
Justin will have to unmute himself. He's not unmuting himself, so.
There's the one thing. You're trying to tell Americans they can't do something, so, that's going to backfire.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. We're kind of stubborn.
Yeah.
With our free
I think
speech
the word
and
you're
shit.
looking for is brats.
There you go.
You're brats.
We don't like we are really kind of like, we are very much like 14-year-olds in this way. We do not like being told what we can and cannot do, even if we know we probably shouldn't do that thing. We don't want to be told that.
Well, like you said, Sean, this medium of how this plays out, they got video game players involved, and you expect them to.
Well, it's like I said, look at the age, the demographic. I mean, right. This is the age of kids that are on college campuses pissing people off and just being loud and stupid.
If I were to be a cynic, I would say it's the generation of entitlement.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And that's not always a bad thing.
But
no, I mean, with the idea of freedom of speech and things that they're kind of taking for granted and forgetting that these are things people have fought and died for.
Right, because I think that
currently fighting and dying for.
Yeah, I think when it comes to youth, I think every generation of youth is the generation of entitlement. Is what I think. I sure as hell was, when I was that age.
And rebellion.
And now I'm like, get off my fucking lawn. I mean, I
was actually going to say that earlier when you were going off on.
That's Carlos's shtick.
Yeah, but Sean's right behind me.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, Son, you shared an interesting bit of Chinese ownership with me earlier. What was that again?
Oh, the one about Digital Extremes?
No, the one about Digital Extremes.
Okay, so Digital Extremes is the company who created, well, I say created, I'm not entirely sure, but they created Unreal Tournament. So that was their ticket to fame. Currently, they produce an MMO called Warframe.
Yep, I'm very familiar with it.
Well, they are, I believe it's 58% owned by a company called Sumpo Food Holdings, which is the Chinese equivalent of Tyson Chicken.
Makes so much sense.
Now, but not only are they 58%, there's so far it's been undisclosed how much, but they are also invested in by, not owned by, but invested in by Perfect World, which, as many people here know, also owns a game here in the West called Star Trek Online.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And the last thing I'll go into on this topic is some of the pushback. You've got people uninstalling Battle.net, which is Blizzard's game launcher, canceling their World of Warcraft subscription and doing a lot of boycotting. But one of the more interesting forms of protest in their first-person shooter Overwatch, there's a Chinese character named Mei, and people are trying to turn her into a symbol of the Hong Kong resistance. Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
I love gamers.
So here's my big picture question, and this is not something I think we can know yet, but we'll see develop.
Justin, I love the gift, by the way.
Is this going to work? Like, are these protests really going to catch on in a way that actually makes an impact for the better?
I think I'm not sure if it will make it better, but at this point Blizzard has for the past several years made such grandiose fuck ups that have been completely and utterly memeable.
Sure, but my point is, are they still making money? Are people still signing up for their games? Are still people still playing their games? Yep. It's like, fine, great, they're doing stuff publicly that looks bad and people hate and have conversations about, but if it's not affecting their bottom line, it doesn't make a difference. Let me finish. People, players have to take a stand if they really want to make a difference. There have to be more people canceling the World of Warcraft subscriptions. They have to be people moving to other gaming platforms that that make a point of not restricting free speech and other freedoms. And
Right.
if they don't actually make them pay a price, it will continue to happen.
Their stocks have gone down, but not like.
But but we're talking about a week, George.
I know it's not like huge.
Stocks are volatile
right now.
You have to see
Right.
quarterly earnings go down.
Quarterlies and annuals.
Right.
Right.
And
Well, yeah.
so-
So you're definitely
so the
right
question
that you're
is-
asking this question way too
In what
early
is
there.
No.
not
And that's what I started out with, son. I said it's too early to know this,
Right.
but it is the big question. We need to see that because people do this all the time, where they're like, "Oh, I'm outraged for 2 weeks," and then they
Right.
go right back to
That's exactly
that's
it.
Facebook.
Well, here's
we
another-
see this
That's
Facebook all the
this
time.
That's
Right.
this administration. Are you kidding me? That's the entire Trump administration.
Well, here's what's really going to
it
tell.
lives on that.
Here's what's really gonna
of the
tell.
outrage going away in a week or two. That's
Because
exactly-
people aren't willing to give up their, addiction or whatever you want to call it.
BlizzCon is coming up.
Yeah, I was about to say.
The Blizzard convention is coming up. If this keeps up, because even Blizzard has said, "Don't come to BlizzCon dressed as Winnie the Pooh."
Yeah.
BlizzCon said,
No, that was a
Come
fake.
on!
That was a fake, son.
Oh,
That
was
is not
it?
on the
Good,
official.
because that's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Okay. Well, okay. In any case, look at the Storm Area 51 thing. Yeah, sure, you still had a few people show up, but it created something else around it.
A few hundred
So
people showed up.
A few thousand
Which
people showed up to that.
you would describe how? What did it create that really makes a difference?
3 music festivals.
That's it. That's saying something.
How well did that festival do? Does anyone know?
It did fairly well. From all accounts,
Did
it was
better than
like what
Woodstock
music
for the first
festivals
10
used to be
years.
before they all became corporate.
Did better than Woodstock for the first 10 years.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Woodstock only happened once.
except for the
In
stupid thing.
in related news, Blizzard stock is down, yet Pornhub stock is up.
That's never going to change as long as there's porn.
And
All
Pornhub
right.
is definitely anti-China, considering the website's blocked there.
Well, gamers are protesting in their own
The
way.
Chinese use VPNs a lot.
Oh
yeah. What's the
Let's
next
go-
topic?
Let's jump. I'm going to go back to
Oh,
what I
wait,
was.
real quick about this. I was thinking about this. One last thought about this is that I was thinking, considering how long these protests they've been going on for several months in China, right? I mean,
12
this has been
weeks.
going-
In Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's still weeks. It's still
Okay,
weeks.
Well, how many
Well,
weeks? Okay,
I don't know. It's been maybe
that's
It's been about 4
six weeks, maybe
or 6.
tops.
Sun
somewhere
said,
around there.
Sun said 12.
No, it's not that long. That's 3 months. It hasn't been 3 months.
No, the social media revolution of Hong Kong has been going on for
Revolution.
12 weeks.
No, I'm talking about the
Actual
boots
going
on the
out and
ground.
yeah, that's been about a month and a half
Okay.
now.
Okay, so I want you guys to consider what would have happened, say, 1989, 30 years ago in China. Do you think these protests would have led?
Nothing happened in Tiananmen Square.
This is my whole point. Do you think what would? So the simple fact that these boots on the ground protests that have been going on for a month, that in itself to me is a sign of some progress. You have to look at it from that perspective, I think. I mean, it's not, it's obviously not ideal, but just think about what it was 30 years ago,
Well, now here's another interesting tidbit that's not been brought up. The Hearthstone, Blizzard's official Hearthstone something or other for a Chinese outlet. I can't remember the name of it. God knows I cannot remember the name of most shit. But they literally said that they were outraged by what happened and they would defend the pride of China. And that's going to look terrible when China starts.
That was the
going crazy
local
in Hong
Blizzard
Kong.
affiliate in Taiwan.
All right.
The pride of China is like they're a rainbow flag. What's going on? What?
No, they made the statement that they were outraged at the occurrence that happened in the Hearthstone match, and this was right after Blitzchung was banned. And
Oh,
stuff.
geez.
The local Blizzard office put that out,
Okay.
but it's important to note that Weibo, the service that they put that stuff out on, has been known. The government has been known to change statements made on that service that don't line up with the party line.
Okay. let's change topics.
Amazingly long subject.
Yeah, I knew. Well, I knew this one was going to be good, but yeah, let's.
There's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it, and there's also a lot to follow up to a story that Carlos has been reporting on in Axe Monitor, which is about the tardigrade lawsuit. What's going on, Carlos?
Well, we found out today that we thought this copyright infringement lawsuit in which the creator of a video game called Tardigrades took CBS and Netflix to court, claiming that they had stolen his game to use to create Star Trek Discovery, and so he sued them for that. And that lawsuit was dismissed by a federal judge back near the end of September. And we found out today that on October 1st, Anas Abdeen, the creator of that game, filed for an appeal, which was unexpected because he actually said he accepted the judge's decision. So to find out that he actually had changed his mind and was going forward with an appeal was a little bit of a surprise. What's not a surprise is some of the reasons why he did that, which basically have to do with the fact that the conclave of YouTube conspiracists who have been backing his lawsuit and leading the charge about how the dog circle, that they have started a funding campaign on GoFundMe to raise money for his legal defense, although it's not really a defense because he was the plaintiff in that lawsuit. They're looking for $20,000, even though they're actually asking for more than $20,000 to pay for this appeal. And what's weird about it is that so far they have not provided any kind of reason or basis for the appeal. One of the things about federal appeals is an appeal is not a chance to retry a case. And in this case, it was never actually tried. It was dismissed by the judge before it even went to trial, basically saying that it had no basis in law to proceed. And so obviously they're challenging that, and they're looking for money to pay for computer network experts. They don't specify why, even though they want you to hand them $20,000. But they're saying, my speculation on that is because they're trying to find people with the expertise to help track down their contention that someone at CBS or at any of the production companies had been prowling around Steam looking for ideas and found tardigrades and stole it. And they proved themselves, Anas Abdeen and his attorneys proved themselves utterly incapable of making that case, even though they were given time by the judge to find that, and weren't able to. And I think what they're going to claim is that they just didn't have the resources to do it. And so the appeal is partly based on the fact that they should have been able to have had the opportunity to proceed with discovery on a longer term basis than the judge originally gave them, so they could actually track this down. The problem is that they don't have any actual evidence that this would have been a fruitful thing to pursue in the first place. So no, that's point one. Point two, of course, is that by itself is not a reason that an appeal will be heard. Appeals, to get an appeal heard, you have to prove or demonstrate that the judge made a mistake either in procedure or in their interpretation of the law and how it was applied to the motion to dismiss. They're going to have that's an uphill battle because circuit courts, appeals courts, give the presumption of correctness to the ruling that's being brought before them. So they're going to have to prove how the judge was wrong in procedurally. I don't think she made any mistakes. From a legal standpoint, in terms of how she interpreted the law, they may make the case that her declaration of things that had been that similarities, the generic sort of similarities between the Tardigrades game and Star Trek Discovery, that she made the wrong ruling in saying that that the similarities were things that are common to the science fiction genre and therefore not something that is protectable under copyright. They're going to have a hard time overcoming that. because there just isn't enough there. And the person who's sort of leading this the most on YouTube is Nerdrotic, although the other usual suspects, Mecha Random, Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge, Doomcock, they're all working together.
All these motherfuckers who couldn't pay for their own damn trips to STLV. That's impressive.
And so they're banding together to raise this money. But there's so many red flags with this. First of all, we have no actual statement from Anas Abdeen saying that they're authorized to act on his behalf. So that would be a kind of a good thing to have. We also have Nerdrotic saying in his video just this evening that not only do they need 20,000, but they need 5,000 of that by Monday, but doesn't tell us why. Like, why does he need $5,000 by Monday?
Who the fuck is he? Alec Peters?
It's exactly the kind of thing. It's like you have to in crowdfunding, you have to be transparent if you want to really get traction. And the problem is they do have enough people who believe their stuff out of hand without any actual need for transparency or substantiation or anything like that, they'll raise some money. They're already up to probably around $2,000 or $3,000. I haven't checked it in the last couple of hours, but I'll do that while I talk. But the point being that there's all kinds of reasons.
$3,699.
And there was just one guy gave $1,000 just by himself. And what they're actually counting on is people's hatred of CBS over Star Trek. So they're definitely going for their typical audience of Star Trek haters.
Man, Carlos, you really need to get in touch with Mike Bodwin and tell him to stop donating shit to these weird ass people.
Wait, did Mike Bodwin?
I assume that's who threw $1,000 at this.
No, it was a guy named Mark Lawrence. About 4 hours ago. And he basically said in his comment on the website, it's like, I'd give even more because I hate CBS. So, Tom Connors gave $5. Woohoo. Woo. So there's just so many questions here that, I hope people are sufficiently skeptical. Like if you're going to ask for $20,000, the very least you can do is to actually tell people why. And how you're going to use the money.
Tell people who you are, because the dude.
Oh no, we know who these people are. That's not a question.
No, we know who these people are. Like the dude who's running the thing, nowhere in the information says who he is or why he's acting on Anas's behalf in this.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be good to have in there. The fact that this looks like it's Anas speaking, when he's not the actual organizer of the fundraiser, that's some dissonance there that should be addressed. You should have something that says we know that this is the real Anas who's been who's posting this up there, and and the fact that the money is not going to Anas, it's going to Gary Buechler, Nerdrotic. We don't know. There's no control over this. Like there's no accountability. About that this money is even going to go to this guy. People are just trusting it will. That's the kind of stuff that
while we're at it, I think I'm going to start my own crowdfunding campaign for him too. Sure.
Yeah. Let's have a fundraiser for the fundraiser.
Right.
Here's what kills me about all this. These people gripe, complain, whine, throw fits, block people.
Yep.
Overpaying for Star Trek, but here they are wanting to throw money for this stupid crap.
Okay, well, first of all, that's not really why they don't support Star Trek Discovery. It's not. I mean, that's a canard. That's just a justification that they bring up because it sounds like a good justification.
But it's an argument here a lot.
Canard with Damar.
Yeah, of course it's an argument you hear a lot, but it's not a real argument. They don't actually believe that. They will pay money for things they want to see. Their beef with CBS is that this is something they don't want to see. And they'll grasp for any argument that will help, get more people to join in with them. So, that's really the thing that's at issue here. And so by, spending a lot of time counter arguing stuff that isn't what they really believe in, you're just wasting energy there. When the real thing is there even a case for this guy? Because if you look at it, there is not a case. There's not a single copyright expert who has looked at this case who has said there is a case. There just isn't. And even Nerdrotic himself, and he says this in almost every broadcast that he makes about this case, he's like, I'm no lawyer, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But
no kidding. And
that's kind of a problem. You should know that. You should have some idea, or at least seek out people who have some idea about whether if this case has any real legal meat to it. And if you listen to his live stream tonight, he basically says, he puts words in the judge's mouth. He says that the reason the judge ruled the way she did was because she looked at his case, and because he's a little guy, she thought it's not going to go anywhere, so I'm just going to go ahead and dismiss it. And that is a lie. I mean,
he's a liar. He's a fucking liar.
Exactly why she made the decision that she did. Yeah. It had nothing to do with him being a small client. Small clients with good cases move forward.
Carlos,
and
how
this
long
one
was
didn't?
What was the length? How many pages long was her ruling?
Oh, it wasn't super long. I don't know.
Like 13 pages?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, I've read it, and it's a lot more than, and in fact, the notion that he's a little guy and he's never going to beat these people.
It doesn't come up once at all. It doesn't. And in fact, it's just completely inappropriate judicially to make that kind of determination.
Of course. It's the ruling was so incredibly well reasoned. It's kind of funny about it was that I read it and I'm going, boy, she's putting a lot more detail in here than you would normally read in a case like this. And I think it's because she's aware who the fucking audience was for this. That this was a case. It had enough press that there were going to be lay people that were going to read it and needed to understand. It would have been great.
On Twitter.
Yeah, it would have been great if these dopes would actually take the time out to read and understand the ruling and try to understand the precedent behind it. They're not
interested. They're not interested in that. They're interested in bringing CBS down, in bringing Star Trek Discovery down by claiming that it's stolen. The ideas behind it are stolen. And that's the lens through which they view all their facts, whatever facts they actually try to put forward. And unfortunately, that point of view falls pretty quickly once you actually begin applying documented facts to it. And they avoided it completely the party line, if you listen to the live stream, it's always about how corporate greed and CBS, had all this money they were throwing. And the fact of the matter is, no, they really didn't. They did a motion to dismiss, which is pretty normal. And, they paid, an attorney and maybe a little bit more for putting this together. This case was dismissed so early on that CBS didn't have a lot of money it had to throw at this. And
no, this was right. Exactly.
It's not like they didn't have a huge team of lawyers. They had one guy who was the lead lawyer, and he, did all the work. In fact, Anas Abdeen had two lawyers to CBS's one that were working on this. A lawyer, by the way, who John Johnson, who almost everything he filed in the original case had some kind of deficiency in it, and the judge, for which he was admonished by the judge and told you have to resubmit. And it was always some sort of, bullshit, tiny little error, but, it's a technical error. This happened time after time, filing after filing, including with, his notice of appeal. It was turned back to him saying, you forgot to make a note of exactly what order you were appealing, which is kind of a, it's not.
That's important.
It's not a difficult thing to to figure out that you should put in your notice of appeal. And
Dude,
so
do you have a paralegal? Oh my God.
So I have a question on this specific topic. So correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't Anas's lawyers working on the payment method of we take a cut if you win, right? Weren't they doing that?
We don't know that for sure.
Okay.
I have always made that assumption because it would signal where their interest in the case came from, because Anas Abdeen does not have enough money, and he says this outright, does not have enough money to just put lawyers on retainer.
Right.
So his only other option would be to find lawyers who would be interested in taking the case on crap.
I can't.
Contingency.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On contingency, which is where they get, usually contingency works where you get a third of whatever you get in a settlement or in damages. And
well, my question is, so that was the first part of this. Okay, so if they were working on contingency, wouldn't they peace out if it was dismissed? Because there's literally going to be no money.
That apparently is what happened, because it looks like this is the reason why they have to raise all this money, because these guys aren't going to, they're not going to represent him without cash, is what it comes out of.
Right. And so that's the thing is, and again, another problem with this GoFundMe is that Nerdrotic is making the claim that this money will go to pay legal fees that he already incurred so far in the original case. We don't know that to be the case at all. Again, Abdeen does not put this in his own statement that appears in the GoFundMe. This is just an assumption that that Nerdrotic is making, but it's based on no fact and doesn't even make sense based on how contingency goes.
It's a contingency case. He shouldn't he should know anything. This isn't like the Peters, like with Axonar with the pro bono case. See, when you get a case, you're better off with contingency, but when you've got a case of contingency, you don't pay for a thing. Okay, that's all.
The lawyer takes on your case because they're willing to gamble on getting some amount of money.
Exactly. And what happens is that at the end of the day, all these things, like for example, like a personal injury case. Okay, maybe you've got experts and things like that need to come out. You've got special doctors that wouldn't be covered under your own insurance, where the case be. The thing about it is that these extra things, this is all taken up. You will eventually pay for them out of your settlement. I dealt with this in a car accident that I was in. I was rear-ended a couple of years ago, where all of my expenses were paid. But, I wound up walking away with like $5-6 grand, which I was fine with, which I was going for. But compared to what the lawyer got, of course, was much more, but there was so much eaten up by all these extra things that are included. And this is what would happen with this is why it's in the attorney's best interest to stick with it. If they're going to take a case on contingency, you ride this out until the end. Well, this hit the wall. Okay. And so that's why they gave up. When you've got, for example, like with a pro bono case, like with Axonar, I believe the claim that he made was that he had 25 grand in
26.
26 grand, and that may be the first time that we know for sure that Alec Peters is probably telling the truth, because the fact of the matter is those things, the pro bono only covers the hourly. That's all it covers. It only covers it does not cover all the fees associated, does not cover all the copies associated, does not cover things like court reporters and stenographers and the cost of depositions and all this other stuff. That's not covered. It only covers the lawyer's hourly time. So it's when you're in a situation that like Mr. Abedin, is it Abedin? Am I getting it right? Abdeen. I keep wanting to throw an A in there. It's kind of like George Collin and Larry Nemesek. Okay, so
gotten better. George is number one.
He's doing much better. I probably won't get Abdeen right for another year. So, but
God, let's hope it doesn't go on another year.
You're not kidding. But the thing is that he would not have any expenses for a contingency case. And that's a gamble that a personal injury attorney takes. That's what they're gambling on. Their case is so strong that they're going to get a windfall. Where these jokers, what they counted on, and there's no question in my mind they counted on, is that they felt that they would be just enough of a nuisance that CBS would throw a chunk of money at them just to make them go away. And CBS didn't. And I don't blame CBS.
I don't blame them either.
For not conceding to this either. Because
frankly, it did not cost them a lot of money to get this case dismissed.
Right, exactly.
It is a tiny amount of money they spent. So this notion that somehow they threw tons of resources at Anas Abdeen it's patently ridiculous, because all you have to do is look at the things that were actually filed at the case.
Yes.
Number of filings, how long they were, the points they made, and it's pretty clear he didn't have much of a case, and it didn't take very much for them to convince a judge to dismiss it. It
was boilerplate precedent is what they referred to. It was all the basic shit. This is like first year law student stuff here is what it was. It wasn't very difficult.
There was stuff even more basic than this. Stuff that is like points of law that are like so incontrovertible that make this case weak from the get-go.
Yep.
Number one, he filed his copyright registration too late.
Yep.
Way too late. So late that it means he is not entitled to statutory damages. Yep. He is entitled to actual damages. That means he has to prove in court how much he lost because them stealing his ideas. The problem is that he has never completed this game.
Yep.
His game is not for sale. It has never been for sale. We don't know if it ever will be for sale. So the amount of damages he could show are going to be very small. They just are, because he doesn't have a product that actually is competing, that is out on the market. So very little money available, even if he were to win. So that's a key point. The second part, and this is where the whole thing with the attorneys comes into play, that's very interesting to me, is that one of the repercussions, again, of him registering his copyright too late is that without a copyright registration, you are not allowed to pursue attorney's fees in court in a copyright infringement action. So right there, right off the bat, we know this because we know what the timelines are for copyright registration. You have to have copyright registration in order to sue someone for infringement and to be able to seek statutory damages. These are things that are known. They're facts that we know. They're incontrovertible.
This is what we call black letter law. Is what this comes down to.
It can't be really.
This is written down shit. This isn't just referring to case law. This is written down shit. Is what it comes down to.
So there are plenty of other things based on case law in this case that you could argue about, but when it comes down to what this guy could actually have gotten out of CBS, it would have been close to nothing.
Right.
Not zero. They might be able to show something, but as far as attorney's fees are concerned, that would have been zero.
Yeah, so statutorily, he was screwed. He was
screwed. He screwed himself on it. And these guys are both intellectual property attorneys. They should have known this. They did know this.
Right.
So I think your point, Sean, is correct, that they were expecting that it would just be enough of a nuisance PR wise, that even though they know they did not have a case and they could not pursue damages or attorney's fees, that they could still cause enough of a ruckus that they could get some money thrown at them by CBS.
I want to circle back for a moment to the GoFundMe itself. Okay, so here's the thing. I look at this GoFundMe and say, sorry, this is a scam. I don't care if the guy actually is going to give the money to the lawyers or what the hell ever. I look at this and I go, this is a scam, because the guy who's doing it's a layman.
Just
the
Thank you, Justin. Sorry, son, I didn't mean to laugh at you, son, but
it's cute.
Justin for the win. That is so cute. I want one.
That's the picture from that's the one from Orville, isn't it?
got one or two in your
One
pits.
for Moorville.
Aw.
Okay, so the guy running the case, or the guy running the GoFundMe, is a layman, so he's not even
Gary Buechler from Neurotics.
Right. Is a layman. The description doesn't even include his name at all, and why he.
It does. It's right at the top. It says organizer Gary Buechler.
No. The description. It lists him as the creator for sure, but the description of why he's running the GoFundMe does not include him whatsoever. Himself, why he's doing this on Anas's behalf, it doesn't include him in that.
That's right. I mean, that's one of the problems. Definitely.
It doesn't say how this money is going to be used at all. And
it sort of does, but it does.
Yes,
if you read down below, it gives bullet points of how the money is going to be used.
Right. But at the same time, I look at this and I go, this is a scam compared to the Nick Rekieta Vic GoFundMe, because Nick is an actual lawyer. He describes why he's making the GoFundMe, who he's making it for, and exactly what he's going to do with it. And because he's a lawyer, he knows how to put it into a trust to go to Vic's lawyer team.
Yeah, and we have no idea that's going to guarantee that this is going to happen.
Exactly. Because this is going to go into this dude's personal pocket. I almost guarantee it.
Oh yeah, because this guy's just a freaking boner, is what it comes down to. I mean, just today, did you see I was bringing this up earlier there. Did you see the fight that he got in with an actual author today about The Last Jedi? Did you see this?
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh my God.
On Twitter. It was on Twitter.
Yeah. So, I've been following him lately only just to see what kind of foul, stupid things he's gonna post on Twitter, and it's just an escalation. Look, we're back to this. This is a brand for these people.
Yeah,
this is what it comes
totally
down
on
to.
Brand for them. That's why you see, we're calling them Dark Circle. This is why we're seeing the same, the usual suspects banding together on this.
Well, this is what happens when you become extreme and you gain an extreme following.
Right.
You paint yourself into this corner that you can only go deeper and deeper into that corner to grow your audience.
And there is an economic incentive for them around this, because again, they're at least upfront about it, although they don't connect it, but they do, say it in the same broadcast that they've lost viewers because YouTube has changed its algorithm, and it is no longer recommending their live streams, their videos to as many people as it did before. Now, of course, they ascribe this to, they literally say that CBS is the villain behind the scenes here and that they are suppressing their videos, when actually what it is that YouTube has responded to the fact that it's not just these people. They're like this little niche, just the idea that their recommendation engine was sending people to these right-wing hate sites.
That's
blah,
correct.
blah, blah, that it wasn't giving any consideration to, they just found other things with lots of views on the same general topic, and that's what would show up. Well, next things to watch.
Well, right, and here's the thing about
now it's not doing that. It's not doing that anymore.
And here's the reality of this. That happened because there is so much crossover between these alt-right types and these nerdrotic, mecha random, doomcock types. There's a ton of crossover with as far as the attitudes presented. Look,
sad puppies.
If you're gonna get here, look, I can guarantee you they all have the same kind of hashtags going on. SJW crap. Things like that over and over again. You're gonna get the same audience, and and of course, YouTube. It's like they realized that this is, where there are legitimate people that are maybe not fans of Midnight Edge, Neurotic, Mecha, but are interested in the subject matter at least, and they'll go to it. And next thing you know,
and the fact that it shows up as under recommended videos, it imputes a certain amount of credibility that's completely unearned.
Correct. Exactly.
It's completely unearned. Right. And so if anything, the previous algorithms were giving them attention that actually they did not earn. And now that that's been corrected, they see that as suppression, and that of course it's because of CBS, because it's this all-powerful, which it isn't, this all-powerful corporation lurking behind the scenes, specifically attacking this group of people, when really it's not. There's a whole bigger context here, and you're just, unfortunately, because you appeal to the same kind of people, you're catching, part of the negative.
You don't have a big enough audience.
All right, we're running low on time for other subjects.
Wow, Ross, that is disturbingly accurate to. Okay, Ross posted. Okay, go ahead, say it.
I did a quick search for the Dark Circle, looking for an image for George to use, and I came across a 2016 English novel of the same name about a pair of young women who are sent to a sanatorium for tuberculosis.
Oh my God, that's so fitting.
Look, you keep saying the dark. You keep saying the Dark Circle, and I keep going back to my colonoscopy.
No, wait a minute.
Oh my God!
It gets better. It says they hear about a rumored miracle cure and set off in search of it. And later in the book, it talks about one of them forming a successful media career.
Oh my God!
All right, so son, I promise you we talk about this, but we can't talk too long about it because we're running out of time. You wanted to talk about something that happened in the world of Carmen Sandiego, and tell us about that.
Okay, so
whoever's crunching, please mute your mic. Was that you, Joe?
No, not me.
My fault.
No, that's Sean.
It was my bag. My bag of chips.
You're all that in a bag of chips, Sean.
Okay, so
I'm done with my seaweed.
Netflix and a bunch of other places, so it's not just Netflix, hire outside animation studios to make their cartoons, right? One of them is in the Philippines, and it's called Top Draw. It's very commonly used, right? And a couple of weeks ago, one of the animators was fired from Top Draw and wrote a really lengthy statement of about being paid below minimum wage, even in the Philippines, being paid below minimum wage by this studio.
Yeesh.
And being fired after going to management to ask for a raise in pay. And this it is very convenient that this person was fired and decided to release this information just days before season 2, because the person was working on season 2 of Carmen Sandiego. But it created a small stir in the community because people started to realize when this came to light, the sheer number of people retweeting this who were also animators, not just animators in the Philippines, but other animators as well, came to the forefront saying, so what? Because they too were being paid under minimum wage to work in absurd conditions to make animation. And it's really shined a very huge spotlight on the animation industry, and it's not one that a lot of people are comfortable with.
It's true. It's been a dark underbelly of animation, of cartoon shows for a couple of decades, actually, because almost none of it is done in the United States. It's done overseas.
Yep.
South Korea was a big one.
Yep.
And because labor was so cheap there. And so we don't understand that the cartoons we all love and such are actually being produced in some, sweatshops, basically.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard about that. They send them over there. They draw up, or they make the asses, and then they send it over there and they animate it. But yeah, that's true. I've heard about that too. I don't know about if it's still going on with some of the more recent productions, but I know that the American, or the American anime, whatever term you want to use, shows often that was what they were doing.
That ties into something I heard a while back from an American animation company, Rooster Teeth. There was a minor controversy about how some of the people working there weren't being paid what they should have been. It got blown over pretty quick, but that does correlate.
We'll have to keep an eye on that.
I've also seen, and I can't. It's been a while since I really looked at the article, so I'd have to go back and read it again. But there were mentions of only being even in the working for Top Draw. Some of the contracts that were drawn said that you'd be paid below minimum wage in your pay, but you would get the rest of that pay after completing the project, right? And with this person having been fired after completing the project, but before it launched on Netflix, suddenly they found themselves not getting that extra pay either.
Not good.
Well, I mean, this is, you know, where these are the problems we've talked about with overseas Asian labor for products for 30 years now, and it's easy for us to ignore them over here, and I'm not particularly surprised that it's found its way into the entertainment industry as well. What next will be outsourced to the cheapest overseas labor. This isn't a criticism of the laborers. This is a criticism of industry, of more than anything else. I mean, and of course consumers, because we keep buying the stuff, whether it be these shows, whether it be our computers, our phones, and everything else. It's
right.
That's incredibly cheaply made, and it's like one of those things. It's like I look at it and it's like, it's like, yeah, it bugs me, but where are the answers? What are the answers to solving this?
Yeah, this brings up one of those philosophical questions of
right.
the Nike debate is what I call it. Is if you have a sweatshop making Nike shoes, but that sweatshop is filled with children, your heart goes out because you want to pay those kids, but you can't support Nike for making shoes using kids.
Well, yeah, that's the other side of it too.
Especially when trends
there is the other side of it too. That what's that, Ross?
Especially when trends say boycotts don't work.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And you look at, for example,
which is why I brought up the thing earlier about the games.
Yeah,
if people don't actually change their behavior, it's not going to make a difference.
And Son, as a 2D animated person, were you made in a sweatshop?
No, because I was made by very loving artists.
Oh, thank God.
Well, I mean, it's like, look, for example, it's like, everybody wants it latest and greatest. Here's an iPhone here, and this wasn't cheap to begin with.
Show off.
But if it was made in the U.S., I mean, it would be 5 times as much. Is what it comes down to, and nobody's willing to do that. Is the problem?
I am. I'll make them.
Well,
okay. So just for reference, I'm still rocking the Generation 3 iPod.
What's that look like?
Wow.
Did you say iPod?
Oh,
iPod, yes.
Oh,
Generation 3?
Food alert! I think my Grubhub guy is here. Hold on.
God,
Right,
now I want a pizza.
My Generation 3
Order
iPod,
for all.
I have all my music and photos and all that stuff on. I had to upgrade from. I still had a Nokia phone for a cell phone because I refused to get a smartphone. And when it finally died, I had to upgrade, and the only thing I could get was a smartphone. And I barely used this thing for anything other than maybe Facebook and to make phone calls and texts.
3? Is that what that looks like right there?
You don't have to really do this right now if you want.
No, and it's the iPod Touch 3. Excuse me.
Oh.
What's the one right beside it?
It's a touchy subject. Huh?
That's why I was impressed.
It was the one right beside it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's let's switch to our final segment today. And I want to start with this one, if you don't mind, because I haven't talked in a while. I want to talk about what we're watching lately. And I have a couple of things besides what Sean's trying. Oh, my God.
Gimme, Sean.
Now I'm hungry.
You bastard.
I know a couple of us here have been watching this one, but I want to start off by mentioning, and I've only watched 3 episodes so far. Raising.
Sean, I want to go to Benihana.
Sean, mute.
Raising.
DJ, is that Benihana?
All right.
That'd be great, though.
I've been watching, I know Carlos has, and I don't know if anyone else has, but I know Justin, I think, has. Raising Dion.
On Netflix.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
I am I'm not obsessed, because if I was, I would have binged it all by now. I love it. What do you think, Carlos?
I think I also have loved it. I'm about, I think, 7 episodes in. It's a 9-episode season.
Yeah, I'm 3 in.
And, the highlights of this have to be the casting, number one. The actors in it, the mom, and the little kid who plays Dion is incredible. This kid is
adorable.
Yeah, he's adorable, but he manages to impart these emotions, like really deep emotions and things in a completely believable way. I think just the way that this is an African-American family at the center of this. Michael B. Jordan plays his father, whom you see pretty much only in flashbacks, but he is an executive producer on this show.
Oh, is he?
Which is telling. And if you loved him in Black Panther, you're going to love the flavor of this show, because it portrays that community and some of the issues they have to face on a day-to-day basis in a very authentic way. I mean, there's this point where the mom has to sit down with Dion. He's 8.
He's very ADHD
representative to have the talk.
Right.
And if you're a person of color, you know what the talk is.
Oh, wait, which episode that happened? I don't think I've seen that.
I don't remember. It's one of the earlier ones. And the talk is the one in which you have to explain to your kids for the first time that the fact that they're not white means that they're going to have trouble the rest of their lives. They're going to be assumed to be bad kids.
Yeah.
They're going to be assumed to be, thieves. They're going to be assumed to be dumb. They're going to be assumed blah, 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 all these things. And we see it play out in Dion's own school.
Yeah.
In a way that's completely believable, because, at least from where I stand, we've all seen it before. I've seen it before in real life. So, and that scene was portrayed amazingly, and it was heartbreaking to watch the mom have to basically come down to having to do it. She has this really great neighbor who says to her, girl, you have to have the talk with him.
Yep.
Because if you don't, you're actually putting him in danger.
Oh, we forgot to mention.
Really sad, a sad part.
We forgot to mention, we're making it sound like it's just a normal show. This is based off of graphic novels. And it's a superpower. It doesn't use tropes, which is what people are loving about it. It's a story about a kid who's growing up with developing superpowers, and the reasons why this is happening is part of the story, so I'm not going to get into that. But the mom is trying to figure out how to keep him from being discovered, because another character I love is his friend, the girl in the wheelchair, Esperanza, I think her name is. Esperanza, who also I'm only on episode 3, so I don't know if she really does have invisibility or if she just says it. So don't spoil that.
No, she's just talking about the fact that in society, people with disabilities are often not
I love the fact that they cast a real handicapped actress to play her.
She's great in it too.
She's amazing. She's such a good actress, and she's funny, and the two of them's rapport. Like when she says he makes the fort in the bedroom, and she says, it's not handicap accessible. It's so funny. And so he has to fix it or whatever. And then he's trying to figure out a superhero identity. And she's like, no, keep that custom. But you've already seen it. I can't use it now. And she's like, I won't tell anyone. I mean, I love it. And he's trying to figure out a superhero identity. And then he has the mentor who's the...
Yeah, she's probably the smartest kid.
This sounds a lot like Static Shock.
No, it's better.
No, it's better.
They do it in a non-tropey. They do it in a non-tropey way.
Yeah, this feels real. It's like if you found out your neighbor down the street was living this out, it would feel like this.
The fact he has powers is an aside. It's like you're watching a regular drama, but like he happens to have superpowers he's learning.
I was going to point out, this is yet another show that I found that I still haven't watched. Everybody else has watched ahead of me. This keeps happening. But this is going to my theory about Netflix and with the loss of Marvel, that they are focusing on trying to get all these independent superhero titles to call their own.
Right, like Umbrella Academy.
Like Umbrella Academy, exactly. Perfect example.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about this at the time, and I'm very excited to start watching this. Like, I just haven't had time this week to jump into it yet.
Yeah, it's great. It's the fact he has powers is, like I said, an aside, and that's one of the things that's getting critical acclaim. Or at least the comic was even before this came out. Is that the way they handle it is like non-tropey.
Sure.
So it's great.
He just happens to have powers, is what you're telling me. It's
okay.
Well, it is.
I don't think I would not describe it as an aside. It is at the center of this story.
That is true.
But what I think you're saying, George, is that I'm sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, go ahead.
Is that they don't take over the show. They're a part of the show. They're at the center of the show. But what you're seeing is real people.
Right.
How real people would deal with a situation like this, and that's what makes it feel
the relationships
authentic and dramatic.
Right. The relationships and the storyline are written as if the kid didn't have powers, and then they said, now let's layer it with the superhero stuff. So
I don't think that's how it was written at all. I'm sorry. I just
probably not. It just feels like that. It's like they really focused on the characters.
The trailer looked like to me. Do you guys remember this show from a few years back with Kiefer Sutherland, Touch? Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
And that's what the trailer reminded me of. It reminded me of Touch. Does it have that kind of a feel to it?
No, it does not.
Okay.
I watched Touch, at least the first several episodes.
I haven't settled.
And it just felt very high concept.
Right.
And this does not feel high concept. This is low concept. This is, it's sort of a high concept idea in terms of, black kid has superpowers, but really it's, and again, I think this goes to what George is observing, is that it's not trying to be a high concept show. It is trying to be a really great sort of family and community drama that happens to have at its center a character who is dealing, and a family that is dealing with what would happen if you all of a sudden got superpowers.
Yep. And it's cool the way he's discovering these powers. And I mentioned this in a chat, but the funniest moment for me, because I'm a guy with ADD, is that old joke about a squirrel would get distracted. And then they had that moment when he says, mom is trying to get him to focus to control his powers. And all of a sudden he says, literally, oh, look, a squirrel. And he goes and he chases the squirrel. And that's how he learns one of his powers. And I won't get into the spoilers.
And that's not a trope, how?
That part, that's humor. That's
I had never heard that before. Every time somebody says squirrel, I think of the movie Up. Every time
that's where it comes from.
That's
right. Well, no, it was before Up. It was out there before Up.
I never heard of it before.
I used to be, back when I played World of Warcraft years and years ago. My character had a squirrel. Everybody used to make that joke. It was 10 years ago, like in T-shirts and stuff. You can find it online.
It's been about.
My mom used to use that to describe.
Maybe it did come with Up. Is that how long ago Up came out?
Up has been. It's been about 10 years.
It's possible. It's possible. It might come from Up. I just never had seen it, so I don't know.
Look. Here's your frame of reference. Toy Story came out in 1995 and had a video game for the Super Nintendo Entertainment
and Sega Genesis.
Sure did. Yep.
Yeah. But so I mean, that's the one that I've been watching lately that really stood out. What about you, Sean?
While I was sick last week, you guys know I was sick for like 5 straight days. Dude, let me tell you, having 105 fever for 3 days in a row fucking sucks. Okay?
Yeah.
Wow. It's like you keep asking yourself, am I dying? And then you don't.
Sweetie, we're all dying.
I'm surprised you didn't do the ice tub thing.
Well, here's the thing. I finally came up with
Sean does the ice bucket challenge.
Well, we have this thing with the health insurance. It's MD Live. I can just go on the phone and I get a chat with a doctor and they prescribe me shit. So I got antibiotics, and then I discovered how effective it really is when you combine ibuprofen and acetaminophen to knock out your fever. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, anyways, what have you been watching?
Well, so I didn't really.
So he fever dreamed the whole time, is what he's trying to tell.
I did on Friday. It was terrible. That's true. But I did.
Mr. Robot probably showed up.
I was able to catch the entire 5th season of Peaky Blinders that just dropped, and it was everything I had dreamed it would be. It was amazing.
I have to. That's on my list. I gotta check that out.
Peaky Blinders is a great show. I haven't really. There hasn't been really any other TV shows that I've been really trying to get. I don't think I've really been watching anything else this week. I've just been really busy with work. So, of course, we watch the Breaking Bad movie El Camino, but.
How far are you into Carnival Row?
I got 2 more eps. I guess I got 2 more episodes.
Cool. All right. Son, what have you been watching? Anything?
I finished watching the 2nd season of Disenchanted.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that before the show started.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't know if you'll like it, Sean. I don't, honestly. And I say this because I seem to be at this weird point where stuff that used to be really funny to me isn't all that funny to me anymore. And
like fart jokes.
The best thing about the season 2 of Disenchanted is they go back to the Futurama kind of storytelling where you get little hints that there's a bigger plot going on. And there'd be maybe 1 or 2 big episodes about that plot. But when it comes right down to it, each individual episode is an individual episode about a thing going on.
Right.
And having that back felt a lot better with the show. But I found myself just going, it's Futurama again. And some parts I enjoyed, some parts I didn't all that much. But, it was nothing that I didn't hate. I just sat and watched it and was like, I kind of enjoyed that.
Well, I really liked it. Son, the thing about it, it's like some of these shows, like I expect from a Max Groening, let me get this name right, vehicle, I expect it to be funny out of the gate is the problem I have. When, it doesn't necessarily have to be that because, like, for example, I always point out to Rick and Morty, and Rick and Morty really is not that funny of a show.
I don't have the brain for Rick and Morty. So.
Rick and Morty's. It's like I always say. It's Rick and Morty is probably the best sci-fi show on TV, hiding itself as a comedy, because it is really what it comes down to. It's like I'm more into Rick and Morty for the high concept of the stories than I am into the comedy. The comedy, when it's there, is fucking brilliant, but that's not really why I'm into it. And I could see getting into a show like Disenchanted if I'm putting aside the fact that I'm expecting a laugh a minute, like I would be with The Simpsons. And like Futurama was the same way though too. I never thought Futurama was always on point being that funny, but it was very poignant. It was very biting sometimes in its pop culture references and commentary. It's like I waited for but it really wasn't like a laugh a minute like we used to expect from The Simpsons. So I'm okay with it if it's actually not disjointed and that was the problem with the first season. I got through 3 episodes and the thing was like all over the fucking place.
Well, let me say before I go on, I'm going to go.
Carl. I want to say one more thing. I did forget one show. I'm also watching the 3rd season of Goliath on Amazon. I don't know if you guys ever watched it.
Oh, is that any good? I have not watched it.
The first 2 seasons are great. The 3rd season is weird as fucking hell. I don't know what's going. It's so weird. But the first 2 seasons are really good. So good. I'm just kind of muddling through it right now, trying to figure out why am I still here? Oh, I'm committed. Okay.
That sounds good. I want to check that out too. Before I go to Carlos next, I forgot to mention, because Justin's going to talk about this too, real quick, just because it would be a disservice not to say, Batwoman started this last weekend, and it's pilot, first part of its pilot. It's off to a good start. I think that the people complaining that are worried about Ruby Rose don't have to worry because they have good directors, and she's doing all right as Batwoman, and I think it's gonna get better. I think that she'll get more comfortable in the role.
Didn't it get terrible reviews?
Yeah, actually, no, it's been getting decent reviews.
Really?
Not horrible. they've been mixed. Like a lot of people say they can see her growing into the role, but that as far as
a lot of the reviews from a lot of the viewer reviews, not the critic reviews.
Right. The critics have been pretty kind to it. Yeah, actually.
The viewer reviews go, this just seems like bland writing.
The critical reviews have been pretty positive. Surprising that they've been surprised that Ruby Rose, they were worried, but she's actually pretty good in this role. But I think that just goes down to it's like with Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman. If you've got a good director, you can bring out their strengths and not their weaknesses. So I just want to mention that, and I know Justin's going to talk about that in a second. But Carlos, what have you been watching?
I'm going to make one quick comment on Batwoman.
Okay, sure.
I'm looking at the reviews, and I haven't seen it yet. So this is more about like the audience reaction. So it's got a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is critics, and that's really good. It's got a 4 out of 5 on Common Sense Media, which is also really good. It only has a 2.8 out of 10 on IMDb, and as I read in these articles from Out Magazine and Complex and Heroic Hollywood, that they're getting the honest reviews are being trolled by white guys who have issues with
how are they proving this? What scientific data is being used to prove that?
I'm happy to report on it next week. My point is that we're seeing a wide disparity in between, and we've seen this before with other things, and it's something worth talking about maybe next week. I'm just pointing it out as a
Plus, by then we'll have had at least 2 episodes to judge.
Yeah, so we'll be able to
and look at the ratings
some more data. To do that. So just wanted to say that. So here are the things I've been watching this week. Obviously, Raising Dion. I've got 2 more episodes to go on that one. So far, loving it. I've been continuing my watch of Camelot, the Stars show that was out a couple years ago. It's now on Hulu. So I've been watching it on Hulu. Let's see. I am just starting season 2 of my rewatch of The Expanse, getting ready for the December 4th season, and loving it. Watching it a second time, loving it even more than I did the first time. Finished my binge watching of the Spanish teen soap drama Elite, which is pretty awesome. And El Camino, obviously, and then also on Netflix, The Politician with Ben Platt, which it's made by the same guy as American Horror Story and Glee, and so it's got a lot of that same sort of realism tinged with like absurd humor kind of stuff going on at the same time, which sometimes even though I like all those shows, he goes way too far with some of that stuff to the point that you don't believe these characters anymore. Yeah, but so far I'm liking, the commentary on politics and that sort of stuff that you're seeing in there. So there's some nice sort of parody elements.
The trailer on that looked like it gave away a lot. It's like of what's coming.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't? Oh.
It doesn't. There's a lot more that goes on than what you see in the trailer.
All right. Now, Justin, what about you? I know you watched Batwoman.
I did. I need to give it another watch through because it was all right, but I just haven't sat through it the second time yet. But there's a lot of negative review when the trailer come out, but so far what I've seen has been pretty positive about it lately.
What I find fascinating is like the negativity that came out when the trailer came out was about how she wasn't blank enough.
That was true. It was exactly you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Ruby Rose almost broke her neck on the set during a stunt, and she almost couldn't continue the role, but she recovered, thankfully. That's something that happened.
Yeah, that happened to Alec Peters too. Did you hear about that? Because he was trying to suck his own dick.
Oh, come on!
No, that's
hater.
Sorry, YouTube.
Woo! The opinions expressed. Anyways, all right. And Joe, what are you watching?
So I've been going back and forth about Netflix, and I realized this week that, you know what, I'm going to keep Netflix. 4 titles that have stood out to me this year: In the Tall Grass, a really good Stephen King adaptation.
I've heard that. Yeah.
In the Shadow of the Moon.
It's
Oh,
supposed to be
that was
really
great.
good.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
it's on my
really good.
to watch list.
That was
Highwaymen,
really good.
and then 1922, which is another Stephen King adaptation.
Cool.
I finally started watching The Expanse. I've never seen it.
Oh, good for you.
Oh, good.
Halfway through the first season, it is awesome.
And it gets better. It gets better.
It's
The first
better.
season
Progressively
is a
better.
little shaky, especially at the beginning, but it just keeps getting better and better and better.
And then the last thing I'd recommend is The Righteous Gemstones. Danny McBride, comedian.
That's on HBO.
HBO. He did Vice Principals. He also co-wrote the most recent Halloween movie. You got to check it out. The Righteous Gemstones on HBO.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Ross, what have you been watching?
All right, so
Wait,
first,
Ross, I just want to ask Joe real quick before you go on. 1922. What do you think of 1920, Joe?
It was eerie. It was
Yeah.
really eerie and uneasy.
Yeah, it's really fucking good too. I saw it like a year or 2 years ago, and I was like, "This was unexpected." So yeah, you guys got a chance, check out 1922.
I actually
as well.
do want to check it out. I like that period.
That's another really good Stephen King adaptation on Netflix.
Yeah.
Ross,
All right.
carry on, my friend.
all right, so first, Son, the heist episode was my favorite of Disenchantment season 2.
Hey.
And it's as far as Batwoman, I haven't seen it yet, but it's very hard for me to get into any of Ruby Rose's roles because I used to work with a guy who looked exactly like her. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I know. His name was Kenny.
He was a hot guy then.
Yeah, if you say so.
Go on.
Anyway, so first off, I got to finally catch up on Star Wars Resistance.
Hey.
An interesting show, definitely very kiddie.
Oh boy.
It kind of marred my enjoyment a little bit, but overall, it was a fun Star Wars show and an example of what we can see from the universe without Jedi, if we ever go that route.
I got through 20 minutes of the first episode. I couldn't take it. I just could
Yeah,
not take it.
that it was very hard to get through that first episode.
So you're saying that if I give another chance, that if I power through that, it gets better?
There are elements that get better. There is one very annoying character that he just grates on you terribly. But overall, it's a good show. If you power through it, I think you'll find some enjoyment in it.
You're gonna have to suspend your distaste for some of the elements. What you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the one character who is always very optimistic and speaks just like this for the entire run of the show, is brutally honest and has no idea about subtlety or subtext of any kind whatsoever.
That sounds like a terrible voice actor.
Yeah.
No, it's the character itself, not the voice.
Oh.
They actually had an episode with Phasma and the girl who plays her.
Yeah, it's all
Gwendolyn
Christie.
Yep.
It takes place during or before and during Force Awakens. So there's some very fascinating insight in what the galaxy as a whole is like as the First Order is on the rise.
Yeah, you get to understand how the New Republic try to stay out of the situation and with the First Order, and people are trying to tell them, no, they're really doing this stuff and they're doing that, they're going to do this, and the New Republic was kind of like, okay, well,
there's some very fascinating
until it becomes a problem, we're not worried about it, you know.
There's some very fascinating and fun insight behind the very kiddie stuff that you might enjoy. But also, one of the things I enjoyed most that I found this week, I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of lore videos, people who make videos about Star Trek, Star Wars, and in particular, in this case, BattleTech, specifically the tabletop game. The YouTube channel, The Black Pants Legion, recently concluded its. You know it?
No, I'm just laughing.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'm just laughing at the name.
Okay.
Sean's the No Pants Legion.
You got it. You got it.
He recently concluded a short
for that.
series about the Amara Civil War, which is the events that essentially begins the BattleTech universe in the far future. And even if you're not a fan of BattleTech in general, I highly recommend that you watch the two videos. They're certainly long. The second one is feature length, but Tex is the name of the narrator and writer, and his command of English, his mastery of tone and pacing, coupled with his editor's skill with timing, scoring, and
it sounds like you're reviewing a movie, Ross.
Well, that's because it impacted me.
Ross,
these
random laughs have nothing to do with you. It's Justin putting on the Riker leg. That'd be a reference to me trying it one time and having it not go so well.
That was funny.
It's an interesting blend of serious storytelling with some comedic flair. For example, he's describing a character and then goes on a brief tangent about how in this one piece of artwork they're using to represent him, he's wearing a bib.
Sounds a lot like what Lori
And then
Logan
next
does.
thing you know, there are Golden Corral signs in the background where he's being where they're making it look like he's being escorted out after a night of overindulgence at the all-you-can-eat buffet.
That definitely sounds like what Lore Reloaded does.
Lore Reloaded actually mentioned him in his the Urban Mech review.
I really, Ross, I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of enjoying the fact that you're bringing this up. This isn't anything that I've ever been particularly interested in, but now your enthusiasm for it makes me want to look this up, okay? Because it sounds like a lot of fun.
Wait till I talk about porn sometime. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm always interested in sci-fi universes, ones that I'm not familiar with. But this is the thing about YouTube that I do love. Does it open up just a vast library of media for even the most niche interests. And I for example, I had this hankering. Do you guys remember in the late, it was from 1998 to 1999 on Sci-Fi Channel when they, for the first time ever, they were showing the original series Star Trek episodes unedited. In other words, in their original 51-minute format. And basically what they would do is they would draw these things out to be about 90 minutes to 2 hours. And in between that, they would have all these interviews with cast and crew in between. And do you guys remember this in the late 90s?
Yep. I think so.
Well, okay. So I looked it up and oh my God, the library of shit, it just opened up. And it was so cool because it was like so nostalgic. I remember that. It's like I had all that shit recorded on VHS at the time. And then, one thing leads to another. And it's like, then they suggest the next obscure Star Trek history video, documentary type video out there for you that you've never seen before. And it's, I love when shit like that happens on YouTube. It's like the same type of thing that happens like with what you're talking about here. I can only imagine the cool videos that popped up recommended next after you watch that video.
Isn't YouTube just kind of amazing for validating Mandela effect shit that you think you've gone through?
Oh, is it ever?
For the longest time, I've been told by absolutely everyone, there is no show called Eureka's Castle. Bullshit. It has a theme song on it.
I remember Eureka's Castle.
Yeah.
All right, let's start wrapping up.
It's not real? What?
But yeah, my final thought on that, YouTube, just on YouTube, that it's been very, very hard for people to really make it on YouTube lately, just with the way that the company is going and how they're treating small creators. So
YouTube is doing this all themselves, though.
To find a channel like this that produces this awesome kind of content and others like it, it's really refreshing and hopeful that people are making it and that other people's try. I tried and failed.
I think what's happening, I think what we're seeing now, a lot of what I'm seeing are content creators who have basically, they've given up on this idea of making money on YouTube and having it become a revenue generator for them. And they're just going back to what YouTube used to be in the beginning for them, just a place to put their content that they enjoy, they enjoy to make. And there's a positive aspect to that. I think that it's less about for people revenue generation than it is. And YouTube's just become this big corporate monstrosity now, and it's just a different version of the commercial product you get everywhere else. So it's nice to have these smaller channels like that out there that are carrying this content. These content creators that care. I really, it's nice seeing that. I enjoy it.
Speaking of content creators, Carlos, where can people find you on social media? You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I was sneezing earlier and I didn't want to.
Oh, okay.
So sorry, you can find me on Twitter at cpedraza and at Axomonitor. You can also find me on Facebook at the Axomonitor Facebook discussion group and the Axomonitor official page. And of course on the web at axomonitor.com. P.S. I was name checked by Doomcock this week.
Positive, negative.
That sounds like the title.
Actually.
Really?
Positive, actually, because of the story I broke on Axonar getting a breach of notice from CBS. Notice of breach. Sorry, notice of breach.
Now you're doing it.
Now I'm doing it. I have to go back
You know
and
what?
fix it.
That means you've been doom-cucked. Anyways.
So it was a big enough story. He covered, of course, he does
actually, we're all
pivot.
the cucks.
He pivots towards the end to still turn it into a Star Trek Discovery hate thing, but
of course,
but he does accurately
spin doctor.
Yeah, he does accurately talk about the problem with Axonar violating the terms of the settlement, and he keeps calling him Alex Peters. Which
that's amazing.
I shouldn't laugh, but
don't tell him.
Yeah, don't tell him.
And he talked to me. He talked to me on Twitter too. He thanked me.
You got a friend now. So where can people?
Friend.
Yeah, that won't last long, so I'm enjoying it while I can.
Yeah, exactly. Son, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/SunsealFan. That's generally where I'll post the YouTube link to the show. You can also find me in the Super Geeks fan group on Facebook.
The real Super Geeks. Justin, where can people find you?
The real Super Geeks Action Monitor is floating around.
He's out there. Go find him.
He floats.
Sean, what about you?
Everything floats down.
Well, in my garage for about another month because we're getting a new house. We're moving again. I haven't moved in 8 years, and we're moving again.
Wow.
We're buying a house. You want to hear this? We're buying a house four doors down. I am not kidding you. I can literally put shit in a wagon.
Why?
Because my wife likes a more open nature of the house and everything.
Okay.
It's got a casita in the
Hey,
back.
look!
You want to hire a moving truck?
Look at
Hey,
it.
a happy wife is a happy life. Isn't that what they say? In theory.
Look at it. Well, look at
her
it.
money.
Look at it. Look at it this way, Sean. You don't have to deal with the ducks anymore.
They'll find him.
Oh,
he's
they'll
only
find him.
He's only 4 down.
Yeah, we got a pool. It's got a pool too, and those fuckers will track me down. I have no doubt about it.
They'll say, "Hey, remember that guy? He's down there now."
Yep.
Joe, what about you?
Lightyearmodels.com.
Was that an offer, or are you telling me where I can find you?
I mean, both.
Wow.
Oh, no.
Cool.
I mean, an offer for dinner. I mean,
He's gonna take me out to dinner when I come to San Diego, right, Joe?
dude, I'm so excited, man. That's gonna be so awesome.
You guys can invite Doomcock to come with you.
Ever.
Might get to see what he looks like under his
We
helmet.
need to coordinate it, so we're gonna do this together from the same location.
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Ross, say hi to Ross's Twitch people right now. And Ross, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/live_love_play. Live Love Play on Facebook and Twitter.
All right,
if
you guys.
you're into real-time strategy, turn-based tactics, and open-world shooters, I'm your guy.
So, due to a weird series of events, we ended up streaming from YouTube for the first time tonight. Whether or not it will be permanently started from YouTube or just OBS all over, we're still experimenting with. But if you guys, since we're on YouTube right now, see if you liked us, click like and subscribe.
So we weren't on Facebook at all tonight?
We shared it to Facebook, but we're streaming from YouTube, and the chat is in YouTube.
Yeah, Facebook wouldn't work for some reason.
So for the first time, I can actually say, and with true meaning, if you like it, click like and subscribe. You'll
get notified
and ring the bell.
And ring the bell so you get notified. All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us from the chat and anyone else out there that watches us after. And we'll be back next week.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to my delivery guy from Grubhub. He was kind of amazing tonight, and here we go.
Did they cancel you?
His name was Mark, and he was the shit, dude. He was
put his profile up. Can you put his profile on?
Trying, man. I'm looking for it.
I don't know if he wants that. I don't know if he wants that.
Oh, see, it all disappeared now because with Grubhub you tip in advance, so it's all.
Sean will post the delivery guy. Sean will dox the delivery guy on Facebook.
Oh, fuck that! No, he'll be our guest in the next show.
Yeah, he'll be in there with you. Yeah.
Carlos, I have a recipe for you to try.
Yeah.
Apple cheesecake tacos.
Oh, that sounds
what?
I saw that. That's kind of
that's like the
interesting.
pineapples
I'm
on the
willing to
pizza.
take a look at the recipe, but I get very
I'm like
about
it's like the
tacos.
pineapple on the.
Like I don't even like fish
pizza.
tacos because I think fish is
I agree
in a taco, but I love regular tacos.
I'm getting a little nauseous now.
But I'm willing to take a look at it. It might be good.
I will. Yes, I will send you the link.
Thank you.
Oh
You know the great thing about tacos is, right? The great thing about tacos is if you get a taco over tortilla, that when all the stuff falls out, bam, another taco. That's the great thing.
All right, everyone. Peace out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you the next time. Same bat time, maybe the same bat place. I don't know. See ya.